Wait, what'd I do? I didn't do anything.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Oh, yeah. I'm not ready yet. Cancel the show.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio, along with your host, Brian Smith.
And the co-host, Kerry Smith.
Giving you all the breaking news, the things you need to know from last week, and to get you all set up and prepped up for the week to come. A lot of times we'll do, it is May 31st, 2015. This is also heard on iHeartRadio as well as iTunes. You can find us at Smith Radio there. Follow us, share our post here on Spreaker as well as on Facebook at Smith Radio.
And, of course, I am always heavily active on Twitter.
Twitter, I say this a lot. I don't get Twitter.
It kind of suits my personality, so I've caught on very quickly. But I must admit, compared to a lot of people on there, I'm relatively new. And if you look at the Smith Radio Twitter page, you could tell we're kind of new compared to a lot of other veteran users.
We don't have 15,000 tweets.
Well, no, not only that, but we don't have 58,000 followers.
We don't.
And I think a lot of those big those big numbers come with time,
or they can show up with money, because you can buy those things.
You could buy them, but some of the people that I see with a lot of followers, they're really active. They'll do at least 100 tweets a day.
What?
Well, maybe not at least, but lot.
Now, if you did that on Facebook, you'd be banned.
Well, there would be people unfriending you for sure. But the thing about Twitter is, okay, so I have a bunch of people that I follow, and every time they tweet, it shows up on my front page. But it's not intrusive. It doesn't buzz your phone every time that somebody does it, and it doesn't. It's one of the things where you log into Twitter and your page shows up, and there'll be a list of everybody's tweets. But nobody who follows Twitter, or who uses Twitter, I should say, on a regular basis, goes through and reads everybody's tweets. That's why I would say that that's a weakness of Twitter. If the whole thing is kind of like crowdsourcing news, like if something happens and a whole bunch of people start tweeting about it and they use a hashtag and people can start following a hashtag and all that, sometimes it becomes so overwhelming that you miss the important stuff. Perfect example, during the Mayweather versus Pacquiao fight, there was a hashtag, and I can't remember exactly what the hashtag was, but I thought, this is cool. I'm not going to spend $100 to buy the fight because that would be ridiculous. And I'm not going to spend $100 to go to a bar to buy $10 beers and watch it at the bar all night. And most bars said, hell no, we're not spending the $5,000 it takes to have the fight.
That's insane!
So I thought, okay, I'll cut out everything. I'll just make it simple. I'll follow the Twitter hashtag for live fight updates. And I will tell you, I'm here to report to you, that was the most miserably inefficient, useless, and pointless way to follow a fight ever. It was, I wish I could tell you some of the tweets. It was like people were tweeting, "Oh man, that was great." Like, okay, what was great? That was their tweet. Like, oh, that was a good one. What was a good one? Are you even watching the fight? What is going on here? Who won the round, and why do you think you won the round? Did anybody get any good shots in? Is there anything that you're watching that you can translate into words that would help me to follow this fight a little bit better? So there's definitely some weaknesses with Twitter, and that came out loud and strong with the Pacquiao fight. So, for instance, let's say I'm interested in this riot that's going on.
What?
Protest in Arizona.
Let's preface this by saying, John Ritzheimer, who set this entire thing up, this is in response to the two jihad, Muslim, Islam, and I don't call them extremists because it's just the standard. That's what they do. Who drove from Phoenix to Texas.
And I'm glad that you make that distinction because it is just not being done anywhere. Not on Twitter, not on Facebook. Everybody insists on distinguishing them. And early on, before I knew any better, just like everybody else apparently doesn't know any better, they figured it was important to make that distinction.
Right. Now, for the show, I just want y'all to prepare yourselves. Get some napkins, some tissues, something nearby, because I've got some sound bites from AC360, Anderson Cooper's new show. Right.
New show? I thought that thing's been around forever.
I just found it.
Really? Oh, man. And you know what? That does not surprise me. Nothing against you. It's against his show. Right.
You may vomit a little bit in your mouth. You don't want to keep that, so just prepare yourself.
Be near some sort of a
bucket, toilet.
Yeah.
But the way that they are treating Islam and the way that Anderson Cooper portrays Islam is that there are extremists and then there aren't. Anyway, so these two Muslims coming from Arizona to Texas to interrupt Pamela Geller's contest of...
Should we go even further back? Like, what contest and why was she having that?
She was
just in case you're listening in and you're completely clueless.
And last week we talked about Pamela Geller and the contest. I had some sound bites on that. She's on Hannity's show.
Oh yeah, she's such a trooper, so courageous. Because my first thought, okay, well, let's back it up a little bit. I don't want to get off on a tangent. So Charlie Hebdo is a magazine in France?
Yes, we are going all the way back.
Because it's important to we'll roll through it real quick because I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that are like, yes, we know this. Charlie Hebdo is a publication which here in America, the whole thing about the founding of America, one of the biggest things was freedom of press, freedom of speech, and all that kind of stuff. And it was because... The people back then in the 1700s were going nuts with little leaflets, little publications, and people would write down their opinions on and go to their press in their basement. I'm not kidding.
Yes, right.
I'm not kidding. And they would make a couple thousand leaflets, or it could be a whole magazine, or I should say like a newspaper or something like a newsletter. And then they would distribute this all over the city. And people would read it for entertainment. Nowadays we have sitcoms. We listen to stuff on the radio. We go to YouTube and it would be equivalent to some Joe in the basement having a YouTube channel and coming out with a little show every week, like your Ray William Johnsons of the world. Yeah, okay, so
or if you can't sleep at night, you turn on George Norrie.
Oh gosh! If you can't sleep, you turn that on. You will have no problem. Oh, you know what? You just flew over the heads of a lot of people. I
got into a conversation with a guy.
There are people that drive trucks that's a danger to the road.
George Norrie, right? I was talking to a guy today. And I just met him for the first time, and we got into talking and about the show, about politics, and he's on. But yeah, he's a West Sider, true West Sider.
Okay, all right.
And he said, "Yeah, you got a show? I used to listen to the radio back in the day. He's short wave.
Yeah, shortwave.
Shortwave.
Yeah,
radio.
That's definitely people in their basement. And definitely.
I would tune in to George Norrie.
Oh boy.
And I go, whoa." And so I spat out a couple things about George Norrie, and he said, "Oh, no. He's more than that."
He's more than what?
Oh, more just extreme. I thought he was just crazy a little bit, but, man, he went on and on. Different parallels and different universes.
Did you hear the latest? Is he the one that's on Coast to Coast? Or
yeah.
Is that, okay, Coast to Coast. Okay, did you hear the latest commercial on Coast to Coast?
No.
They're now marketing their show as the place to go to listen to weirdos, and I'm almost quoting that word for word. That is almost the word for word. I wish I had the soundbite of the commercial. It pretty much says your place to listen to weirdos. I'm not kidding. They're not even. And we've joked about that show early on in our broadcasting
We continue,
career.
and we continue.
It's
We
going to be
continue.
the running joke where. So what he does is, and it's hilarious, he has callers call in, and unlike just about any other show you've ever heard in your life, he will not, in any way, shape, or form, interrupt them, cut them off, cut them short, or move them along. Nothing. He will let them talk, and then when they're done talking, he'll allow for about a 5-second silence.
So, Kerry, what do you mean by that?
There'll be a long side, and what he's doing is just in case either A, they weren't really done talking, or B, they decide, oh, I just thought of something else to talk about. He allows that. He allows for space for that. If you want to get off on a tangent, that's even better. And our theory is
he has incontinence.
Oh my God! He has an issue.
He has a massive incontinence issue, as well as possibly tapeworms.
Oh, wow. So we believe that what happens is as soon as he takes a call, as soon as it's established that this guy's going to go on, he goes ahead and leaves the studio for a while, or at least behind the mic. He gets out of there.
Right.
And uses the bathroom, or goes into the break room for a while, and gets into long conversations with colleagues before he realizes, oh, well, I'm still in the air. I'm still in the air.
Because when you're at work, there's always that one guy who always stops you and has to talk, and you can't get away from him.
Yeah, I'm usually that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Nori actually goes out and seeks that guy because that's one of his best friends.
Well, here's the thing. He's getting paid whether he's behind the mic or not.
That's true.
So the longer he can do whatever he wants to do while getting paid, the better.
Right.
So anyway, that's the joke about that. If you ever get a chance to listen to that show, or if you do listen to that show and you never thought of it, next time you do, think about what we're saying, because once you realize what we're saying, or I should say once you're aware of the possibility that he's doing what we just told you he does, it becomes ridiculously hilarious, because it's exactly what he's doing. He'll let the guy talk and talk and talk, and then as soon as he's done talking and he's real, you know when they're done talking? When they say, Are you still there? They do that all the time. They'll ask him if he's still there, and then all of a sudden you'll hear him go, yeah, I'm still here.
Did you hear the zipper?
I'm still here. Oh, no, you hear the flush. Yeah, you hear the toilet flush. Oh, man. And
that's what it would sound like when you're done with it.
So how did we get off on this tangent? So anyway, Charlie Hebdo. We all agree in the freedom of speech and all that kind of stuff. So as long
freedom
as
of press,
which is the same,
get the information out.
Yeah, the First Amendment covers a lot. I mean, you could have made 3 amendments out of the First Amendment,
right?
With the press, speech, freedom of religion. There's assembly. I mean, just a whole bunch of stuff you could have broke it down.
Peaceful assembly.
Yeah, so they decided to put it all in one. But anyway, it's the most important amendment, which is why they made it first. So here's the way I look at it. Unless you are doing something that can be construed as dangerous to somebody else. And honestly, as a libertarian, I can't come up with a satisfactory example of the type of speech that should be banned. We talked about, you can't scream fire in a crowded theater. We had an episode.
Yeah, we talked about this, and my instant knee-jerk reaction was exactly what you're probably thinking right now, which is what we were taught and ingrained in us growing up. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah, from a very young age we were told that. And of course, my initial reaction to hearing that from my teachers was, oh, well, that makes sense. That's dangerous. Thousands of people could die in a stampede, a trampling. But the way I look at it is, we live in a day and age where, there's fire safety, and there's sprinkler systems, and you know, remember that band that got killed with all of their fans in that nightclub? 100 and something people died in this tiny little nightclub where this band was playing.
White Snake?
Great White.
Great White.
Something
Great
like that. Great White.
Great White.
And
the band survived.
I believe no, one of them died.
Okay.
One of
but
them
a lot of people died.
Yeah.
Because they had the back door. And as soon as they went out the back door, the bouncer locked it shut.
Well, that was
you can't follow the band.
I don't think that happened. I think that 95% of everybody in that building would not have known which way to go for the back exit. So of course everybody's like, let's leave the way we came in. Problem is when everybody decides to fit through one door, it ain't gonna happen. And so everybody else was stuck inside, and they all died. It was a shock. When you heard the death toll, it was a big shock. Thing is nobody cried fire. Nobody had to.
They weren't
allowed to. Right. No, but everybody saw the fire. It was right in front of everybody. The whole thing was videotaped, which is why it was such big news. So that example of not yelling fire in a crowded theater doesn't make sense there. I would love for somebody to try. This would be a very morbid. In fact, let me take that back so we don't get sued.
Uh-oh.
Don't try this.
No.
But it would be an interesting little thing. You know how you take the camera out on the street and you videotape people, you ask them questions.
Like the GoPro?
No.
Or like a real camera.
No, I'm talking about where they do an experiment on film.
Oh, okay.
I would like somebody to take a camera into a crowded theater, stand up and scream fire and see what happens. And then do that at 10 other theaters.
Wow.
You know what would happen? Everybody would look at you and be like, what the hell is this guy's problem? Or how about this? Okay, now this could be a little bit more dangerous because there could be some credibility here. How about you're outside of the theater, you kick open the door, jump in, and
with all the light from outside just completely illuminates the entire room from the
like the sunlight.
Yeah.
So it's a dark, crowded theater.
Yeah.
The new Star Wars, let's say. We'll do that. We'll get cameras. Because this is standing room only in the new Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Go at the matinee, so the sun's still out, right?
Right.
It's like noon. You kick open the door, you jump in, and you go, fire! And I'm going to be honest with you, I can't see a reaction out of that crowd that would cause a death. I just can't see it. What are they going to do?
Shut that door!
No, you do it and you make the Spock sign. You might get killed yourself because you'll get trampled over.
They're insane like that?
Oh, what? You didn't know this?
Oh, man, I'm not on
it's bad.
Geek
it's
tech.
Bad. It's imagine. Well, you know the rivalry between Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
That they ain't got nothing on Star Trek versus Star Wars.
Wow.
Yeah, it's completely. Did you hear? It was like Glenn Beck or something was talking about how they were thinking about introducing Star Trek characters into the Star Wars franchise. And of course, the reaction
the
was
insanity. People would be gouging their eyeballs out.
Yes, they would be looking for somebody's eyeballs to
gouge out.
Yes. So Charlie Hebdo, they draw pictures of Muhammad, and of course
caricatures, if you will.
They would be, I guess, cartoon characters of Muhammad. Apparently, the Islam has some sort of a law. I don't know if it's in the Quran or not. It doesn't matter. They take it extremely seriously. That you're not supposed to have or make any depictions of their prophet Muhammad. And if so, I guess the punishment is a lot of violence of
carnage.
Some sort. Yeah,
absolutely, carnage.
So basically, in retaliation, and in their minds, I have to point this out. In the minds of Muslims, this is simply just justice, nothing more.
Right.
A law has been broken, and so justice needs to be served. And in their case, the law of drawing Muhammad happened.
Well, and even back, this might have been a couple years ago. I don't know who did this, but they took a doll of Jesus and stuck it in a
the jar of urine.
Urine.
Yeah. No, it was actually a crucifix.
He was on the cross, and stuck it in. Well, in protest to that, because there was no killings or beheadings.
Oh, they didn't behead a bunch of people?
Well, the total count after about a month, I think it reached a total of 0.
Oh, what was it before that?
Not quite sure. But in protest to that, Glenn Beck did Obama and Pee-Pee. He took an Obama doll,
okay,
and he stuck it in a glass that he referred to as Pee-Pee.
Okay, but was it Pee-Pee?
Well, that's the thing.
It could have been colored water.
Okay. And he was selling it on eBay.
Oh, okay.
And throughout his whole show, 3 hours of his show, he was reiterating, come by, bid on it, you could be the winner. And they were joking about it the whole time, Obama and Pee-Pee. After 3 hours, I think the grand total was up like $30,000.
You've got to be a very wealthy activist to want to get involved in that for $30,000.
So eBay canceled the sale.
Why?
Removed it and said because you cannot sell urine. They used other words for it, but you can't poop in a bag and sell it on eBay.
Wow. Because that would be biological, what do they call that?
Hazard.
Biohazard.
Biohazard.
You can't sell biohazardous material. So, but the funny thing is I think what I heard was that, well, how do they know it was actually urine? Because it was marketed as artwork.
And he called it Obama and Pee-Pee.
So, it's very possible that if you went by that standard, you could actually take a photograph of poo-poo.
Right.
Sell it as a photograph, and they would be like, "Oh, whoa, you can't sell poop on the internet."
Right.
But it's a photograph. But what's it a photograph of?
It would be like selling the supposed artwork of that guy who came by during in the 90s. He came through Cincinnati and he was banned because his supposed artwork of like naked boys and do you remember that whole thing? It was a huge ordeal. Maplethorpe.
I wanted to say Natorps, but that's a garden center.
I kept thinking of napalm and I couldn't get out of my head.
Maplethorpe.
Yeah. Maplethorpe. And he died of AIDS, homosexual life, all this just really gross and sadistic things that he would do, photograph it and call it art.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, he would have done Boy and Pee-Pee. Have a real boy standing in a tub of pee, photograph it, it's art.
Yeah, and if eBay were to dare take that down, they would call that intolerance, and then it would be a problem. And
you would have the LGBT LMXYTPT after you. That's the new lesbian, gay, transsexual, bi.
You don't have the list in front of you.
We did a show.
You should have it on the wall so we could just read it right down for you whenever.
It was it was like alphabetic long. It was like 26 letters long.
Yeah, and that wasn't a joke. It was for real.
It was for real.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, Charlie Hebdo, they drew. They had a bunch of pictures, or was it one picture?
They continually. There was a cartoonist who would continually draw different caricatures.
And this is in France.
Muhammad.
And France is. I think all European countries have a problem with an infiltration.
That's what they. One of the things they get upset about is the caricatures of Muhammad with his 9-year-old wife.
Well, I don't think it matters what's in the picture. I think that their argument is you can't draw the Prophet Muhammad in any way, shape, or form. Even
right.
if, because this is the story I heard, even if it is a picture of him that puts him in a good light.
Right. They
cannot
said
happen.
I've got it here in my notes, but the president and the imam of the mosque that we're talking about that went down in Phoenix, he came out and he said over the weekend, we have 126 prophets. Muhammad is the last.
Okay.
And we don't draw pictures of any of them. Jesus is a prophet. We don't draw pictures of him either.
Which we don't call him a prophet, but
Yeah,
he's
it's
the son of God. Or God. Some people say it's God in man form. So it just depends on how you look at that. So they decided, well, justice needs to be done. You know, our law was broken, so we need to do our part to make sure justice is done. So they, I don't know if an order was sent out or if it would be considered a lone wolf or whatever, but they went up and killed like 12 people up in the Charlie Hebdo offices.
And on the video camera, you see a police officer putting his hands in the air. This is a French police officer putting his hands in the air to the terrorist, clearly saying, fearing for his life, don't shoot, it's okay, whatever. And the terrorist goes ahead and just point blank kills the cop in France.
I think he was begging for his life.
Yeah, he got down on his knees, hands in the air. And you're like, Brian, why would a cop do that? Well, you don't live in France. You don't know how French cops are.
Or they don't have the U.S. Constitution.
Right. They are not armed with guns.
Because that would be dangerous.
It would be extremely dangerous.
You gotta get all the guns off the streets. Illegally, anyway.
I mean, we talk about the guy in Great Britain, a former soccer player who videotapes himself doing all kinds of stunts and making fun of the cops.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, and he kicked there was a police van on the street with the back doors open.
It was like
cops were somewhere around.
Narrow, one little door. It was almost like kind of an ambulance-looking thing, except with a one little door.
He put the soccer ball on the ground and kicked it through the door, ripped his shirt off like he just scored a goal, and started screaming and running down the street. And the bulby attempted to apprehend him, but they couldn't.
Well, we're talking about a world-class athlete.
Well, but these bulbies were quite unfit, if you will.
Even if they were fit, you're talking about probably one of the top 100 greatest athletes alive in his prime.
Yeah.
I think this was before the last time he played in the World Cup.
So
we're talking about a pretty damn good athlete here.
So I subscribe to him because of these videos that he makes. They're just
hilarious.
Hysterical.
He does those little practical jokes. The best one was the McDonald's one.
Oh, where he got free McDonald's. That was free.
It was an actual how-to video, how to get free McDonald's. And
I don't know how that isn't banned on YouTube, considering the things that we've done.
And you know who it is and everything. I'm sure he went back in and said, "Here, it was for a video. Here's the money. Blah blah blah." I'm sure.
Right.
Of course, it wouldn't matter if he didn't. But
no.
But anyway,
so the Charlie Hebdo, this newspaper, loses 12 of its employees due to
total terrorism,
Islamic terrorism, not extreme terrorism, just terrorism.
Right, because if it was, I guess terrorism that isn't extreme isn't bad. Is that what we're trying to say? So, of course, there's outrage.
It's like telling me that it was a hate crime.
Oh my God!
Aren't all crimes involved have some element of hate or anger?
Or I'm not saying that hate is redundant, but it's pointless. If it's a crime or not, who gives a crap if hate was involved?
Well,
if
what
you
if
break
it's an
a law,
anger
it's
crime? I want to come out with a new one, anger crime.
How about a love crime?
Whoa!
There we go.
Well, we are not.
This is a children's show.
And the Bruce Jenner 2.0, that ship has gone and sailed away.
Did he commit a crime or?
Yes, he killed those people.
Oh, that crime. I forgot about that.
He was taking pictures of his new breasts, and he was sending them to his wife.
See, you're not allowed to text, but that does not mean you can't take selfies while driving in the rain with a trailer down the hill.
Downhill. Got
speeding.
Speeding. You're taking a picture of your newly implanted breasts going from a man to a
Where has
PC.
the freedom gone? We should have the freedom to do those things in America.
There was a famous NBA basketball player.
Dennis Rodman, was he taking a picture of his breasts?
Late at night, he was drunk, had a drink in his hand, watching porno in his car.
Okay.
Had his phone. He was talking on the phone while it was going. Ran into the back of a parked car.
Ooh. Okay.
Laughed about it and told everybody what he was doing.
Well, didn't the cops come?
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
he joked, but he told everybody what he was doing. And he was also had his some of his clothing was off, partially.
Well, I mean, if you're watching what he was watching.
Adult entertainment. Yeah, and he joked like he was telling his friends what all this stuff he was doing.
That's something you might want to try to call up your PR people and sweep under the rug, or spin it. So anyway. Okay. So in response to the murder that happened in the name of Islam,
right,
as always,
yeah, Muhammad,
some Americans decided this is an outrage. I'm sure most Americans did. Real Americans, anyway.
Pamela Geller being one of them.
Yes, this woman decided, well, we'll show them. And I applaud her for this, and a lot of people were condemning her for this, but she decided, let's have a Muhammad drawing contest. Now, and the funny thing is, I don't know if it's funny or not. To me, it's funny. I mean, I don't know. It seems pretty obvious. I'm not a dummy, but you don't have to be completely stupid to miss this. But if the whole thing about the Muhammad drawing contest was in response to a massacre at the hands of Muslims trying to seek out justice for drawing Muhammad, don't you think that a contest in response to that, drawing Muhammad by many people in a big convention center, would have had everybody's defenses up? Well, everybody.
Let me put on my thinking cap.
Okay, all right, let's hear it.
They were heightened, and they posted security.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's say
and the security was in America.
Well,
which means?
Let me ask you this. You're a cop off duty, and somebody calls you up and says, hey, we're going to have this thing and we're going to need security, just because it's a thing and you always have to have security.
Right.
We're dumb, so we're not going to assume that it needs more security than normal, but you're the professional, so we're calling you.
Right.
You're going to be off duty that night, right? Can we hire you? It's going to be for a contest to draw Muhammad in response to a massacre that happened in Europe, doing exactly what we're about to do. Would you just go and be like, yeah, I guess I could stand around?
Well, here's what I would do. Here's what I would do. I would call up a handful of other officers that will be off duty then. We will hightail it over to Velveteen, and we will get bright yellow T-shirts and have printed on the back security
in 6-inch letters, right?
Right.
Okay. All right.
So while Velveteen is making our shirts, we will then prepare, security measures for the entire facility. I mean, not saying we're going to put it on a lockdown, but if we had to lock it down, we'd know what we had to do.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Let's say you're thinking about securing this place. I'm sure at some point you're going to brainstorm. I'm sure you would say to yourself and maybe even to your colleagues, what is the worst case scenario we may have to deal with? What do you think you could come up with in a scenario like that?
Well, funny thing you say that, because after this weekend, people have posted videos on what the worst case scenario may be, and these are some conspiracy theorists that are way out there, and they're referring to the bombing, Colorado bombing.
You mean the guy that shot up the theaters? Colorado? The only Colorado thing I can think of is that guy that shot up the theater.
What was before 9/11?
The USS Cole? I mean,
no. The lone guy who went ahead and blew up the government building.
Oh yeah, what's his name? Timothy McVeigh. Woo! Somebody
Show
call
prep.
in. Wow. You got to
Where
love
is the where is producer? He's doing a George Norrie on us. He's got the
How did you
producer's
get
gone.
How did you get all the way to Colorado with Timothy McVeigh?
They're saying that Timothy McVeigh is what would that type of bombing is what would happen, or what the Muslims may do in response to.
Well,
this.
I mean, they did 9/11.
Well, correct.
So, I mean, so they certainly are capable of that.
Right.
Who
knows?
The thing is if you go in and you look like you're from the Middle East, because there may be some discrimination or.
Well, if you have a hood on and a screen door to look through.
Well, no, that's if you're female.
Oh, the guys don't have to do that?
No, they don't. But if you were female, that might make it even worse.
What if you were a guy
and you did that?
Put that on.
They would think you were a girl. But they wouldn't think you weren't Muslim.
Well, right, but they might think you're non-threatening.
I don't know. These days, I mean, we're smart people. We know that would be a damn good way to conceal a whole bunch of explosives.
Right, and that's what Muslim men do with their wives. They strap them up and
so
light
you go
them
in,
up.
you have a turban on or a screen door, whatever, and you walk into a feed and seed place, and you order a Ryder truck full of fertilizer.
Yeah.
Do you think
Because
that would happen?
You're going to plant something.
Well, you got to farm, whatever.
You're thinking about farming, and you were told.
Well, why are you using
this is what you need?
Yeah. Well, why are you using a U-Haul?
Well, I learned on YouTube video that this is how you pick this stuff up when you don't have a truck.
I'm going to need to see your driver's license and 2 forms of identification.
Well, my uncle's brother has that information. I'll just call him while you're loading my
He
truck
gave me
up.
this note.
He said to let you know it was okay.
You know Farmer John down the street? He sent me.
Yeah.
He sent me with this U-Haul.
Right.
I'm picking up.
He said old Bessie was broken down.
120 55-gallon drums of nitrous, whatever that stuff is. I don't know, whatever, the fertilizer.
I'd ask Timothy, but
Yeah. Might have to. I have no idea.
dig him back up somewhere. Anyway. So, fast forward, Pamela Geller.
She's the one that organized the thing. So while they're
In
having
Texas, she organized this drawing in Texas, and so while this, and it was promoted as well. She made no bones about promoting this. Had security there.
Well, yeah, because you want people with skills in art to go ahead and make a submission, because that would make for a high quality contest.
Oh yeah. Well, not only
You
that,
want to make it competitive.
if the drawing was that well done, it could be sold.
Yeah,
You make
some
money
good
on
money.
that.
Well,
Sure.
no, this is a well-known fact in any industry. Anytime you win an award, your value goes way up.
Right.
There was a company that my brother invested in, and several other of my friends invested in. It was a some sort of an invention show or something like that, and I wouldn't really call this an invention. But he won like 6 different awards at the show. It was a symbol that you would put on clothing that would indicate to anybody that saw it that you're single. So if you
Wow.
And the reason he came up with this idea was because he went to a bar and he was really interested in this girl, but he didn't go up and talk to her because she was with a guy all night.
And she might have been single.
It turns out she was with her brother. And so he never got a chance to approach her.
Well, I never had that problem. 'Cause
So
I would have asked her, "Hey, is that your brother?"
Because if it's not,
that's my boyfriend. Well, are you happy?
yeah,
That's what I'm talking
right.
about.
So that's Brian. But most people would just be like, I'll look elsewhere. So Brian looks at that as a challenge.
That's my husband.
Oh,
Well, are you happily married?
Oh, wow. Wow. So anyway, so this guy comes up with this clothing line that has this little symbol on it that would indicate to anybody that you're single and that you could be approached for a date or whatever. And so he goes to this show or something that has all these invention submissions, copyrights, whatever, and he wins like 6 awards. Well, all of a sudden he gets offers from all these different clothing manufacturers to buy it from him for hundreds of thousands of dollars and all that stuff.
Should have sold it.
He should have sold it because he ended up just snorting it all up through his nose. But it's just a mess. It was a
He
mess.
snorted the symbol?
No.
Never mind.
Yeah.
That's for another show.
Oh, man, he made every business mistake that you could possibly make.
Wow.
And guess what? Have you ever heard of it? No, because the whole thing just kind of fell apart and whatever.
Yikes.
So anyway, but no, getting back to it. So you want to get into this show and maybe win it because then your artwork's value would go up.
Oh, yeah.
So couple 1,000 miles away, and this could have happened anywhere. It could have been 50 miles away.
From Phoenix to Texas.
Some Muslims who were, regulars at a local mosque or whatever, just Muslims, decided somebody's got to do something about it. And if it ain't going to be us, then who?
They are from the mosque that we are talking about that went down this weekend.
Right. And so they drove 1,000 miles. Not to just confront them, not to protest, not to put up signs, but to pull a Charlie Hebdo Part 2.
Oh, they came blazing, but as,
Are these people from America? They have to know how this was going to end.
Well, they even said there were statements before they went there. They were tweeting and Facebooking and saying things of the nature of, I know we're probably going to die, and if we die, that's fine because this is for Muhammad. This is for...
What a bunch of idiots.
Well, and it was good for the gene pool that we got rid of.
Yeah, you got to clean it up.
Absolute morons.
You got to clean it up. What was that, the Darwin Awards?
Yes.
Which,
yes.
by the way, I don't know if we talked about Darwin on this show, but he is he's right up there with Karl Marx.
We will definitely bring Darwin up. But as these two would win a Darwin Award,
here's my
they went there. The security guy killed them before they even got in there.
What, they saw guns, or they'd start shooting, or I heard it was a firefight.
What was, but they were missing. They were missing everything. And the security guy, apparently, a couple of pop shots, that was it. They were both done.
They were like, oh, there's guys over there. They're shooting. We better stop them.
They're shooting.
What movie was that? There was a movie.
They're shooting.
Maybe it was Harlem Nights, but I think this same scenario has been played out in several different movies, where one side is just bullets everywhere. The guys that are getting shot at are just ducked, just trying not to get hit. Probably 1,000 bullets expended. Then, when the other side fires back, one shot done. In Harlem Nights it happened. Yeah. They had Tommy guns blazing. The one guy was firing a little pistol.
Yes.
And just there were holes. It looked like Swiss cheese in this building. Glass was flying down. There was dust coming up from all the bullets hitting. And then Eddie Murphy, who played Sugar in the movie. Sugar, I guess. Sugar.
A very young Eddie Murphy.
Oh, he was like 23 or something.
Yeah.
He jumps up, and by the way, there were 3 gunmen that were shooting at him. He jumps up 180, pop, 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 ducks back down, dead silence. And he looks up. He had all 3 of them there.
That's all he needed?
Yeah, so that's pretty much probably, you could almost make a parody of this shooting just like that. I'm assuming. So these guys are firing. They're missing everything. Cops see them. Pop, pop, they're dead. Is it 2 guys? 2 gunmen?
Yeah, 2 gunmen.
Okay. So...
And I've got, if you want to replay this, it's a 55-second sound clip of Pamela Geller on Hannity's show.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she kind of goes over this again. So here's Pamela Geller, who set up the show.
Well, hold on. Let's preface this a little bit. Was this this was after the shooting and everything, right? What, her interview here that you're about to play? I'm assuming it's probably right after the shooting. And so there was all these death threats on her life. And I remember thinking to myself, how is she going to respond to this? I've never heard her voice in my life. I didn't know what I was going to expect. And I was thinking, man, if I was in her shoes, that would really suck. Now, the rest of your life, you're going to be looking over your shoulder. Who's going to put a bullet in my head? Some crazy Muslim who feels like justice needs to be served and that it'll be served by my death for exercising my God-given freedom of speech.
Right.
And she goes on and responds,
To Hannity.
this way.
It's incredible. You know, in the wake of the Charlie Hebdo slaughter, the media across Europe ran the cartoons, and it was Je suis Charlie. Here it's Je suis Jihad. What the media refuses to recognize is these two jihadists were going to target something, meaning I happen to have protection because I've had so many death threats, so I know. I have the knowledge of the enemy. But if it wasn't a free speech conference, they would have done what they did in Australia. They would have done a chocolate shop or something like that and killed people. Lives were saved. I want to say something else. I am offended and libeled, defamed viciously by the media every day. And I will tell you something, Sean, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how vicious, they will never get me to kill anyone. They will never get me to kill anyone. We are responsible for our own actions. We are responsible for our own violence, as it were.
So she makes two great points
Yes.
there. The first one being that it's funny. Chris Matthews said that this is like a mousetrap that's set, and it just caught two terrorists, and he was offended that somebody would set a mousetrap like that. She pretty much said, well, I guess it turns out it was a mousetrap, and we caught a couple mice.
Yeah, we caught a couple mice. We saved lives.
Yeah, because here's her point. Her point is when you set up a mousetrap, you're trying to catch mice, which are undesirable to people that are trying to catch mice.
Well, and they can also make you very sick.
Could be, and so in general, if we can all agree that a world with less mice is somehow a better world, which, making a huge leap here, but her point is that if you don't catch the mice in the mouse trap, that's two mice out there that are still alive doing their mousy things.
Right.
In this case, sure, it ended up drawing in two Muslims and ended up causing the death of those two Muslims.
Two Muslims that wanted to kill people who were doing something they didn't like.
Yeah, so, and I've said this in at least 2 or more of our episodes, but there are times where there are conflicts that liberals will sit there and tell you all day were needless killings and didn't need to happen. And what it is a clash of two incompatible cultures. Well, here you go. Here's two incompatible cultures. It's so perfect. You got one culture who values the freedom of speech, completely unabridged freedom of speech. Whatever you want to say, whatever you want to draw, whatever you want to post anywhere, all of that, you're completely free to do that. And you put that with a culture who thinks that there's certain speech, pictures, whatever, that require justice to be done, and according to their culture, the justice is only served when you kill the person who did that speech. Those two cultures are incompatible, and
Absolutely.
The only way to reconcile, there's two ways really. One is if you get the one entire culture to abandon that portion of their culture, and which one does it? Do they abandon the fact that they have to find justice for somebody who exercises freedom of speech, which means we get them to no longer kill for justice of drawing Muhammad, or you get our culture to say, well, I'll tell you what, we got the freedom of speech, but because drawing Muhammad is going to get us killed, we'll go ahead and we'll abridge the freedom of speech to not allow for the drawing of Muhammad.
Here's the reason why the first example, getting Muslims to stop killing, is the way to go. It's because when someone draws a picture of Muhammad or makes fun of Muhammad, they are not infringing on anybody else's rights. They're not taking away somebody else's freedom by drawing a picture of Muhammad.
Yeah, they're only outraging somebody.
Right.
Which
well,
doesn't take any freedom
and
away
I can
from them.
outrage you by making jokes and sticks and stones and break my bone. We could make fun of people all day long, and children do it the best.
I don't think making somebody feel bad is causing them to lose any freedom of anything.
It's because they don't, and the reason why they feel bad is because they don't have control of their own emotions. I tell my daughters all the time, walk away from it.
But
Just get up
having
and walk away.
having
Ignore
the inability to control your emotions is completely not attached in any way, shape, or form to whether or not you have freedoms. I think, unless maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's all about, and this is why our society in America works so well with the freedoms that we have. It's because it's all about personal responsibility. Now, the Muslim out there that's going to go kill Carrie or kill me because I draw pictures of Muhammad, he is now taking away my personal freedom.
Yeah, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness,
Right.
property, whatever.
So he's taking something away from me, and in the sense of me drawing a picture, I'm taking nothing away from him.
Right.
So the one who's taking away the other person's freedom, that's the one that needs to be stopped.
So from a philosophical point of view, we win.
Absolutely.
We win the argument there. I mean, it's
right.
flat
There's
out.
no question about it.
So,
So for CNN to tell everybody that we need to respect this culture and not draw pictures of Muhammad,
it's just
it's insanity.
well, it's they have conceded, or they've surrendered a God-given right that has been written to be protected by our founding fathers. They're like, well, we need to surrender that.
Right.
Because we don't want to be scared. I mean, what are they doing? What is it?
Okay, so after Pamela Geller's show, after the two Muslims that were
caught in the mousetrap.
Yep, we're caught, and better off the world is, especially America, better off we are that they are now gone.
So now John Ritzheimer,
commit no more terror,
a Marine out of Arizona.
Correct.
Does he live in Arizona, or did he go there?
Yes, he lives out of Arizona.
So he found out.
Tactically,
I don't know. We should have him interviewed.
Breaking news. He has now had to flee with his family because the terrorists have posted all their addresses to their homes.
Oh, so it's kind of like the situation in Ferguson where the guy had the lawnmower running.
Dude, how do you not turn the lawnmower off?
Well, most of them, when they have the safety where you let go of it and it stops running.
Right.
Because, like, if you had it running and you just left and it just ran,
well,
a baby could crawl up and be like, what is this?
Where's all this noise? Where's all this noise coming from? Well, if it was a riding lawnmower and he left a key in it, but those have safeties too. If you get up off the seat.
My riding mower is impossible to do anything without it shutting off.
I'm thinking of my dad's
the old school ones,
back in
the old Graveleys or something. Yeah. Those things were death traps.
The seat was a single spring.
Okay.
With a metal platform on it.
I was going to say, there's no platform.
The seat had rusted away.
Oh, no.
So all that was left was a spring. And so he put a piece of wood on it and a cushion.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds comfortable.
Yeah.
And the cushion was just a piece of raw foam. There was like no cover. It was just a foam.
No, of course. That's how
it was a piece of styrofoam. It was like kind of hard.
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah. So
anyway, so he puts together, and John Ritzheimer puts together this huge demonstration. He wants to demonstrate the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, and he decides to get together as many people, as many Americans as he can.
Did you have a conversation with him, or you just friended him?
No, I friended him on Facebook, friended back right away. Apparently, he's pretty active. I mean, obviously.
On Facebook.
Okay. Since all this has gone down. But he's getting a lot of support from Americans. So it showed up to be about 250 bikers / Americans that showed up.
Not the same bikers that got in trouble in Texas, did they?
No.
Yeah, those guys, the gangs that caused all the shootout, the huge shootout. Something straight out of the movies.
Well, these guys were armed.
Okay.
They were armed.
They should be.
Yeah. Well, here's how the Washington Post states this yesterday. So it was the day after. The Washington Post says, and I quote, about 250 mostly armed anti-Muslim demonstrators.
Okay. I used to be offended by something like that. I used to say, "Hey, how do you know they're anti-Muslim?"
And they're mostly armed.
I get, yeah. I mean, well, what does mostly mean? Like, how did you get that figure?
I saw one
is that
armed
a figure?
man, and so they were all mostly.
I extrapolated. I saw one guy armed, and I said, well, there's 100 people here.
It must be 100 people armed, at least.
But if I say mostly, that's probably accurate.
Right.
So anyway, mostly anti-Muslim, huh?
Right. So this is in response to 2 terrorist attacks.
Can we distinguish real quick? Is it safe to say, is this accurate, that we here at Smith Radio are anti-Islam, but that doesn't necessarily mean anti-Muslim? And I can explain that. The way I would describe that would be a Muslim is just a person who happens to follow Islam. And I'm not going to write them off because they either
You actually know somebody who's
Yeah,
Muslim.
I do. And I'm sure this is actually probably pretty common, where he actually told me when the Chris Cornell thing went down, he's like, "Can you believe that?" And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "We go to mosque every single week. We don't know anybody there like that at all. We never hear anybody talk like that or act like that." And so,
Dude, it's a ruse. He's trying to get you to. He's trying to lure you in.
He's trying to lure me in. So I'm like, nobody. He's like, no. I mean, everybody's peaceful at our mosque, and so I look at that as they just may not really know what's going on behind the doors of the higher ups at the Muslim, or the people who the journalists call extremists. I don't know. Maybe they just don't.
It's like the difference between a 3rd-degree Mason and a 33rd-degree
Okay,
Mason.
that could very well be that, and either that could be their condition, and I can't say, look, I'm against your religion, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm anti-you. I'm against you as a person, because maybe one day when you know as much as we know, and you finally realize, my God, these people are doing all this stuff in the name of my religion, I got to find out more. And then when you do, you're like, well, I don't want no part of this. Or maybe you do. I don't know. It's that's when I become
okay.
There's that. But then there's also a guy who may be totally for that. He may be described by a journalist as being extremist.
Whoa.
Yeah, and the reason I would say not anti-Muslim, not anti-that Muslim, because, hey, I come around and say, my God, what have I been doing all these years? I am out here. I'm no longer involved with this religion anymore. I've come to my senses. I've wised up, and I'm no longer. Not only those kind of people could come full circle and go, not only am I not Muslim anymore, but I'm going to crusade against what they're doing. Right. That kind of thing.
Well, I mean, in parallel to that, it could. I got into an argument not an argument, but a discussion with a guy years ago, right after the whole priest scandal and the sexual abuse with the children and the Catholic Catholic Church, and so Catholicism, Catholics, they're Christians, and so are Protestants are also Christians. We all believe in Christ as the Son of God. Now, I had a discussion with him about, well, then obviously if you're a Christian, well, then you condone that. I said, no, we don't condone it.
Condone what?
He's like, well, you're part of it. You guys never stopped it. I said, well, one, we didn't know about it. He said, well, how can you still be a Christian knowing that went down?
And that's what?
Right.
No, you know what that's like? That's like saying, oh boy, I don't have a good example right off the top of my head. But if you have an ideology that's written down, it could be the Constitution of the United States, it could be the Bible, it could be the Communist Manifesto or whatever.
Or it could be the Quran.
Now, if your label of if you're Muslim, that means you follow the Quran. If you're Christian, you follow the Bible. If you're American, you follow the Constitution, whatever. So if you have a label based on your ideology, okay, and you do something that is in clear violation of that ideology, that doesn't mean that everybody that shares your
Right.
label says, well, I'm not involved with X label, whatever it could be, like Christianity. Here I'm over here molesting all these children. There is nowhere in the Bible that says you, as a Christian, you must go around and molest little boys.
No, of course not.
And as a matter of fact, I'm sure there's tons and tons and tons of stuff that's not only written down, but just taught from the top down that you don't molest little boys.
Right.
So why would somebody who's Christian say, well, I don't want to be a part of that Bible anymore because there's some sickos that are in my religion
Right.
molesting little
Leaders
boys.
of the leaders of my church.
Now, on the flip side, got to change the subject a little bit from what your original point was, because it's just, if you're a Muslim,
And that's where I was getting. But go ahead.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Now,
where I
if
was
your
going with
if
this.
your label is Muslim and you're following the ideology of Islam, and you see a bunch of people murdering under the guise of justice under Sharia law,
chopping heads, yeah,
you'd be chopping heads or doing the point, the lining up of a dozen or more people with their hands tied behind their backs on their knees, and as a coward walking up one at a time,
in the back of the head,
right in the back of the head, right down with people
grimacing. The next guy over, grimacing
because they think it's either them or they're like, maybe I'm next, or is that mine? Oh, it's just
or being put into like a
Such a
like a
heartbreak.
lion cage and being set on fire inside the cage.
right. You can't say, well, I'm not going to disown the entire Muslim faith just because a couple bad apples are not following. That's not the case here. It seems as though to us, and please email us or call in or do the chat on Spreaker and let me know where I'm going wrong here. But it sounds to me like there's a pretty wide consensus among both the Muslim community and the community outside of the Muslim community
Right.
that this is them following the ideology.
And if you don't stand up against this ideology,
Hold on a second. If you stand up against it, you're now going against what you are labeled. So if you are a Muslim, you have to condone it.
right? Well, yes, correct. So if you're
If you don't, you are walking away from what you are.
correct, and we've played this before, and I've got the soundbite again, but Bridget Gabriel, who is a very outspoken against Islam, the religion of Islam, because it takes away the freedom of Christians and Jews, and she's, that's where she lives. All of this is a part of her life and taking away the freedom of people in Israel. And matter of fact, they were calling out this week. There's a caliphate, or what would they call it when they say they call out an order? Is it an order for Islam, for Muslims to do?
I know what you're trying to say, but I don't know the word for it.
So, but the whole thing was to invade Israel and remove.
Oh,
all,
it's that same word that you used when they call for the killing of both John Ritzheimer,
right?
And who's the woman from Texas with the
Geller.
Geller? Yeah, I mean,
Pamela Geller.
the calling for her murder, whatever word it
Right.
is.
So Bridget was in a town hall meeting. This happened a while ago. But this is fantastic, phenomenal. And I want to preface this, and I want to set this up, and I want to play this for you guys because of how critically important it is to understand. There was a Muslim woman in the hall who raised her hand up and asked a question. Why? Basically, the whole question was, hey, there's so many of us peaceful Muslims. Why are you coming down on all of us? And then her response came back, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. So that when you sit around the coffee table with your friends and you're talking and you're joking, and all of a sudden it comes up about Muslims and Islam, and you're saying, well, they're extremists. There's only certain people who are extremists that go out and kill. Well, the rest of us don't kill. And this is the whole point that we're trying to make right now on Smith Radio, is that it is the whole community of that practice Islam and follow the Quran. It's all of you that need to do something to stop all the violence, the hate, the murder, the beheadings. You need to go out there and make that stop. You know. So here's Bridget Campbell, and here's her response to the Muslim woman saying that it's not her fault.
There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? Since you're the only Muslim representative in here, you took the limelight instead of speaking about why our government, and I assume, are you an American? You're an American citizen. So as an American citizen, you sat in this room and instead of standing up and saying a question or asking something about our 4 Americans that died and what our government is doing to correct the problem, you stood there to make a point about peaceful, moderate Muslims. I wish you brought 10 with you to question about how we can hold our government responsible. It is time we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs.
That was probably the greatest response to any question I've ever heard in my life. And we didn't play the question, but she basically said, why are we doing more to protect the peaceful Muslims? When we're talking about, we're in response to terrorism that kills American citizens. If you're it's pretty clear to me that if you're Muslim, and we have the same problem with Mexicans.
Yeah.
Mexicans that come over to America, and it doesn't matter whether you're a citizen or not. If you're from Mexico and you're illegal, legal, or an American citizen, your first concern should be American citizens.
Right.
Because if not, then you got your priorities screwed up. Why are you here?
Right.
If you're a Mexican and you identify with Mexico and your concern is the safety of Mexican citizens, then go back to Mexico.
Right.
All right? And same thing with Muslims. If you're here in America, I don't care if you're from America, from the Middle East, or whatever, if you're Muslim and you're in America and your first concern is Muslims and not the concern, especially Muslims that don't even live in America. You're worried about Muslim persecution overseas by America, and you're in America, and maybe you're just like this girl that made the original question, was an American citizen. Why is it not your first concern? What are we doing to prevent the killing or death of American citizens?
Right.
And that's something that needs to be called out on every time you see it happen.
So, as you listen to the sound clip, Bridget's whole point was to this woman, and this should be shouted from the mountaintops, everyone that you run into, the peaceful majority are irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, as we sit here, and we worry about whether another person, another Muslim that follows the Islamic faith, is he going to take the Quran word for word, literally, which tells him or her that you have two options. You either convert a non-Muslim believer, a non-Islamic believer, to become a Muslim and a believer, or you kill them. Or there's a third thing that they can do.
Oh, there's a third option. Okay.
The third option was that you can pay them. You can have the non-believer pay you monetary
like a
value.
ransom.
Yeah, like a ransom.
Okay.
Like a ransom. So if you follow the Quran word for word, there's a lot of horrible things in that book that where you would actually be taking away the freedoms from other people. It tells you that the ends justify the means, meaning lie, cheat, and steal by hook or by crook, whatever it takes for you to convince, to trick, to do, to get everybody to believe.
You're eliminating non-Muslims either by getting them to convert to Islam so that you have an extra Muslim, or to kill them to take them off the earth.
Yeah, to take them, they're out of the equation completely. But you are your sole purpose in following the Quran in the Islamic faith. Your sole purpose is to do nothing but to add every single non-believer to the list, to the roster of believers, or to remove them from the earth, so that the entire world, the second coming, if you will, the caliphate, as they call it, will be under complete and utter control, under one religion, one society, all under Sharia law, which is the most oppressive form. I don't know if it's form of is it a government form?
It's just a list of laws, just like it would be in any other government.
So we'll call it a form of government that you would live under. I don't know anything more oppressive.
Well, and the thing is they would tell you that we all agree that this is the best way for everybody to live.
Right, because we know what's best for you, and their leaders, if you will, their priests are called imams, and when the imam puts out a law or an order, it must be adhered to immediately. There was a sound clip we played a couple weeks ago where Megyn Kelly was asking an imam about the law that was handed out that women can't drive.
Mm-hmm.
And it is against Muhammad's prophesy.
Well, because
like that.
Muhammad didn't want people to drive.
So, and she said, well, there's the hypocrisy. Some countries make that a law, and others don't. What's the deal? And his comment was, it is up to each individual imam to enforce certain laws that they feel are necessary.
It reminds me of when I went to the Renaissance Festival and they act out a lot of the old European lifestyle stuff.
Oh, where they suppress women. Treat them like animals.
Well, the guy comes out, and this was the jousting thing.
Oh.
And during the joust, you have the queen come in, and she sits down in her little throne to watch it, and you have all the peasants in the crowd, which is us. And the guy comes out, and he starts to describe how things were back then in the Middle Ages in Europe. And I'll never forget, because it's something that we never stop and think about because of the way that we make laws in America.
Right.
But he comes out and he says that and I don't remember what he called himself, like the Lord of the whatever title he had. But as a person of royalty, whatever comes out of his mouth is law.
Immediately.
Right. So if he says, all you guys that are chewing gum, you have to get 100 lashes right now. That is now the law.
Right.
And also, judge, jury, executioner.
Like was it Henry VIII that killed all his wives?
Well, that was alleged.
They didn't have GoPros back then.
Well,
they didn't have the hidden cams, the babysitter cam, things like that, and stuffed animals.
well, if you look at the surveillance cam, if you look at the CCTV,
Yeah, okay, closed circuit, right,
yeah,
right.
you would see that that was very suspicious.
Very
activity.
suspicious. Okay, well, there was also back in the day, if you got a new king, the rule of measurement would be according to the length of his foot.
Oh, foot. Whoa. Whoa. I almost thought I had to get the old bleeper out.
Yeah, this is a family-friendly show.
Okay.
And this is for real.
Oh, yeah.
So then the new king would come up, and so he would take off,
Whoa.
expose.
Wait, what?
Well, he has to expose his naked foot.
Oh, foot. Okay, we're back to the foot again.
To judge the distance of what is a foot.
Okay.
So I know we use the term foot; they use the term meters, centimeters, but
that's
irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
Well, no. I mean,
for this point,
for history's sake, the metric system came up by a bunch of scientists
Okay.
a while ago, long after.
well, I'm
with a
hedging this in
foot.
case we got smarty pants in the.
All
in
right.
the
So
audience.
for those of you that are like, wait a minute, they don't use feet, they use meters. Well, that's because they converted to the metric system. America has not.
Right.
So get off your high horse.
So if you had a small footed king,
you know what they say about kings with small feet?
absolutely, and it's a fact.
Oh yeah,
They wear small shoes
or boots.
or booties.
I don't know if they wore tennis shoes back then.
So you would have. So if 1 foot he had a half a foot, so it was 6 inches. That would be a 1 foot.
The new
now.
foot,
That
right.
would be the new foot.
And they measured horses by hands,
Right.
and don't think that that's just just an arbitrary.
The king's
name.
hand, if he had a
This-
big hand or a small hand,
Yeah, so your horse could all of a sudden,
be worth a lot or be worth nothing.
yeah, all of a sudden you get a king in there with a giant hand.
And then your pony is now worth nothing.
Yeah, because it went from 5 hands to 2 hands.
Right.
Whatever. So
So, anyways, as we digress, the whole crux of this religion to implement Sharia law, I don't think that's not what they're trying to do. They make it apparently clear to anyone who wants to listen to the imams, listen to the leaders in the Middle East, and there's leaders in Europe and Britain.
well, that guy that came on, was it Hannity show? With Geller.
He's
and
been outspoken. Yes,
He's from. Now, before I found out he was from England,
Right.
I was ready to choke somebody.
because you thought he was from America.
I was like, is this guy out? He should be thrown in prison just for the heck of it.
Yeah, well, in America, there's things that you just can't do.
Yeah, so he came out right in front of her face, said, well, yeah, under Sharia law, she should be executed.
Right. He's calling for the execution of a human being.
And
In
it turns
America-
out he's from
Yeah.
Britain, and even though Britain doesn't necessarily have laws like that, they are a bunch of yellow-bellied, spineless cowards who are letting Islam take over their country. And they're either doing it because of cowardice or pathetic apathy. And if you are British and you're listening to this, then you should just say, Carrie, you're right, and I'm sorry.
Wow.
Because it's the truth.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and I just want to point out to any of you Muslims out there listening that don't try that here in America. In fact, if you want to go and take over a foreign country to convert to Sharia law, go ahead and stay in Europe because it ain't happening here in America.
right. Well,
It will not happen.
they're attempting it, and by attempting, I mean there's certain cities that are becoming overwhelmingly. Well, they. When I say they,
What do you mean by they?
them, they, and
Those
hymns
people.
and those
Those
people.
people. What do you mean by those
Muslims who practice is the Islamic religion, and believe in Sharia law are taking over certain cities that have been abandoned, like in Michigan. Certain areas that have been pretty much run down and moved out. So they'll move into the city in large groups and then take over positions of power, if you will.
Like government positions.
Yeah, local city councilmen and things
Okay,
like that.
I gotcha.
And they start implementing some of the laws. We talked about this in one of the shows, where they start implementing some of these laws. Well, how do you not allow that to happen? Well, you don't allow that to happen because we have something called the Constitution.
Oh, right. We can't violate the
Bill of
Constitution.
Rights.
Yeah.
Just because you all voted in a city, by hook or by crook, to go ahead and implement Sharia law and take away people's rights, that don't fly. You can't do that. Oh, you can attempt it.
Sure, certainly could try.
Right, you can try. But
And you could even put people in jail. You can convict them and sentence them and all that stuff. And so what happens is you then appeal to a higher court. It could be at the state level. And then if it could go all the way to the Supreme Court, let's say. And of course, the Supreme Court would say, well, you're violating their First Amendment rights. This is blatantly obvious. So we're going to overturn this, and then you let them go free. But in the meantime, they spend all that time in prison. They have to go through the hell of having to go through the justice system that was created by Muslims in America.
Unless you're a filmmaker and you make a film that incites the death of people in another country, say Benghazi.
I'm going to come out with a movie called Fire. And it's just going to be some guy that comes out and screams fire in a crowded theater.
Dude,
that should be
reality
banned. It would be banned for sure.
Like Faces of Death. Banned in 50 countries. So no, but the guy that for Benghazi?
Yeah.
He's probably still in jail.
Oh, the California man that made a really pathetic video.
If you do that in America and you upset the president, the POTUS, the dictator-in-chief, you upset him, he may stick you away.
Well, no, here's the thing. He didn't do anything to upset anybody. We may have talked about this.
He upset an entire culture.
Right. No,
He made the Muslims that follow the Quran, he made them kill Americans.
But that's not even what the reality is. Here's what the reality was. The reality was Muslims decided they're going to attack a consulate in Libya and kill and rape everybody in there.
Right.
And they did that. And the administration said, okay, we know it's coming. We're going to go ahead and let it happen. This was before the fact.
Right.
They said, it looks like something's going to happen. And how did they know? Because the consulate, the people in the consulate said, we need more security. It's going down. Right. This was months ahead of time. So the administration knew, and what they decided was, well, should we save them? Should we protect them? Should we move out? Order them to move out? Or could we benefit from the death of these people? And so it was determined that it would be best for all of us if those people were killed. Right. So we'll placate them. We'll say, oh, you're fine. Yeah, we're sending people. We got it. In the meantime, that gave them time. Okay, we know these people are dead. They're going to become dead. They're going to be killed. Is there a way we can blame this on somebody else? So they did a worldwide search and a brainstorm.
I don't know where they came up with this guy. This was...
No. Think about it.
This had to be a miracle.
No.
I had to be planted.
Oh, no. Let's walk through it. Let's do it. All right, we're in the office.
Okay, so we're no longer in Phoenix.
We're not in Phoenix.
We're in Benghazi. Oh, we're in the White House.
We're in the White House. We're somewhere in Washington in some high rise and overlooking the Capitol, all that stuff.
3 years ago. 2.5 years ago.
And we're like, okay, we need a way to say that this was not terrorism and that this was a spontaneous... Well, how would that happen? Somebody speaks up and says, well, they would have to get really upset. Okay, well, what's going to upset them? Well, they don't. They seem to not like freedom of speech. Maybe there's something that could incite them. Do we have anything? Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll do a Google search. Let's do some. So they Google search something that would be offensive to Muslims. That video pops up, and they say, "Hey, check this video out."
So, do you think Google can be implicated?
Implicated? No, because they didn't. All they did was provide a way for the White House to find the offensive material.
Kerry, you don't understand. At this point,
what difference at this point does it make?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so
let's reel this dog in.
Well, now at that point, it didn't make a difference. But during the planning of covering up the fact that it was terrorism, because what they wanted was the people in Benghazi dead. Here's the needle that they were threading. They wanted an entire consulate to be raped, pillaged, murdered.
Yeah.
They wanted no response to it at all, and they wanted to be able to explain why it was so sudden. And on top of that, we need to be able to convince the public that it wasn't terrorism. It was just a spontaneous attack by people who were walking around and were looking for trouble with RPGs.
Wow.
So they said, I think we have a way to thread that needle. Here's the problem. They're a bunch of incompetent boobs. And I'm not saying that because she's female, but just in general. So what happens is the public's like, what? We're not buying that crap. And so they end up looking like a bunch of idiots. So that's what happened. Now, you all listening know the true story of Benghazi.
Okay, and since you brought her up, the National Enquirer, did you see that picture I sent you?
Yes, I did. Yes.
National Enquirer is claiming that Hillary is a drunk. They got a picture of her.
Well, in
drunk.
the Chipotle, she had those big dark glasses on. And make no mistake about it, the reason celebrities walk around during the daytime with the sun out with those giant black sunglasses.
They're goggles, really.
Goggles. Some say, well, they're hiding their face because that's part of it. But they need to shield themselves from the ravages of the night before, which was going to include lots of alcohol, lots of drugs, and they're all hungover and they don't like the bright light. And so these allegations of Hillary being a drunk make total sense to me.
Right. So a boozed up Hillary Clinton suffered a secret collapse during a recent vacation. And now worried advisors want her to do a secret stint in rehab before her White House run.
Oh, her secret right now.
Sources close to the former First Lady and ex-Secretary of State revealed the hush rehab before the White House plan to the National Enquirer in advance of Hillary's formal announcement to be a 2016 presidential candidate for early next year.
Is this an old show? Or an old article? I said show. Like this is a sitcom.
It just came out, but it sounds like this is an old article.
Well, she's already announced that she's running. How old is this article?
In a hushed-up incident, Hillary was too tipsy one night.
There's got to be a date on it.
And suffered a secret collapse. One insider said she was boozed up. Somebody also said that she has experienced...
Who says that? Hold on a second.
Multiple blackouts.
Well, she's getting a little older.
I didn't know she went that... she blacked out.
Oh, you mean somebody didn't roofie her?
Yeah. Dude, she's the kind of woman that you don't roofie.
She roofies you.
Yes.
Wait a minute, but Wiener's wife could have roofied her. Or she probably doesn't need to.
She's down with Wiener's wife. They're down with each other. Anyways, I don't want to get too far off topic.
We got way off topic.
So back to Phoenix and Friday. Whew, it was.
So these guys.
Hold on. Before the protest, before the demonstration on Friday, at the mosque where the two Islamic guys, terrorists, drove to Texas and killed. Well, attempted to kill, but got themselves
Got them killed. Yeah.
Okay. So at this exact same mosque, this is where John wanted to do his protest. And so before the protest outside the mosque, the bikers met at a nearby Denny's to hold their own little Draw Muhammad event. And will take the illustrations of the the Muslim prophet, with them to protest at 6:15 in the evening. The same time the Muslim community will gather outside.
Okay.
Because this is their holy day, Friday, and at 6:15 they'll be praying or assembling for mass. Or
and
they
this
don't
is
call it
this is
mass.
at the mosque. Okay.
This is at the mosque. So this is what they're doing. And local police and FBI have been informed of the event. The Muslim community is surely aware. Will we see radical Muslims initiate violence? Today also happens to be the Muslim day of communal prayer, further adding to the likelihood that the peaceful protest will be anything but.
What? Why would it be? Wait a minute. Explain. You might have to repeat that. Why is it going to be anything but peaceful?
Oh, because...
Because one side's Muslim and the other side's protesting against Islam?
Right.
So
and
who
they're
we...
bikers with guns.
Are they all bikers?
Mostly.
Mostly bikers with mostly guns and mostly anti-Muslim.
Right. They're very...
Like we said earlier, we're anti-Islam, not anti-Muslim.
So, I've got this sound clip before the protest on AC360, Anderson Cooper's show on a channel called CNN.
Which you may remember from the Gulf War.
Back in the day.
That's their only claim to fame.
Yes!
They were the one that had the guy in the airport on the payphone.
No!
Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Right,
I'm dead serious.
I know, right,
he called in from a payphone at the Baghdad airport. There's all kinds of bullets in the air, and then you see the night vision footage of all the rounds firing up into the sky.
Does Ted Turner still own CNN?
I didn't know if he ever did.
I thought Ted Turner was the...
Oh, maybe.
The man behind
Is he still own it? I don't know.
He should have gotten out at the height.
Well, if he was smart.
So
the height? What was the height?
So, the month it opened.
Oh, you mean
Gulf War?
I don't know how much before the Gulf War opened, but the Gulf War is when everybody was like, "Where do we find this footage?"
Right.
Oh, CNN. For those of you in Westwood, this was before the internet days.
What?
Wait, 1990.
Yikes.
This was at least 4 years before the first HTML website that I've ever heard of. Anyway, so
this it's a long clip, but I'm going to play certain parts of it. We'll stop it. We'll break out the tea and crumpets. We'll laugh a little bit. We'll have some fun with this. And he's interviewing John, and he's getting ready to. I think this is the day or before the protest. And is Anderson Cooper, wasn't he hired at CNN to kind of be the middle of the road guy, or was he always
I always thought that his delivery was an attempt to be credible.
Right.
And I'm just here for the facts type of thing.
Right.
But as he's doing the monotone, I'm just getting the news out, blah blah blah. The content of his words is okay. I see where the agenda is here. I can see the agenda.
And I normally do not ever play the question from the host or the host.
But that adds to the context, right?
Oh my Lord!
Oh.
Okay, here we go. AC 364, go.
Mr. Wertheimer, I appreciate you being with us. So you're encouraging hundreds of armed people to gather outside a mosque during a prayer service wearing T-shirts saying F Islam. And I certainly know you have the right to protest. Everybody does in this country. But you yourself have said this is a provocation. I know you've compared it to poking a bear or kicking a hornet's nest. So what are you really trying to achieve?
Well, I'm really trying to achieve exposing Islam and the truth about what's written in the Quran. People, even Mr. Mudd that's joining us, he's said that he thinks this is a bad idea. And some would probably argue that, the signers that signed the Declaration of Independence was a bad idea.
Now, there were a lot of
Yes.
people that said that's a very good point.
Well,
Even Glenn Beck says, and I think my history teacher even said this, that they knew when they signed their name on that declaration.
It
was a death warranty.
Yes.
Yeah. They were signing their own death certificate, and that the likelihood of this ending unbelievably terribly bad as opposed to the way it ended up going was very, very high.
Absolutely. So, not only that, but don't think for 1 second, like if you look at our politicians right now, they can't agree on anything, especially when it's a big deal. Don't think for 1 second the Founding Fathers had problems trying to come to grips with what to do.
Yeah, in fact,
this was decades in the making. Decades.
And some people don't realize that during that time, there were a lot of very important high-up people who were so against the Declaration of Independence and were so convinced that it was going to be failed and it was going to result in their death that they said, to hell with this and to hell with you guys, I'm going to Canada. And that's exactly what they did. There was a whole bunch of huge loyalist
As my daughter
movement.
was taught by Common Core in kindergarten, Canada is where the slaves ran to for freedom.
Yeah, that's there were some that did.
Right.
A
fraction.
It was
a
very
tiny
small
percentage.
Very small percentage.
They came to Indiana and Ohio for their freedom. Anyways.
Okay. So anyway,
as I digress. So
good point.
He's invoking
good point.
The Founding Fathers, and here's what our good friend Anderson Cooper had to say.
Back in their day.
So you're comparing yourself to the signers of the Declaration of Independence?
Yeah. I don't want to live in fear. I shouldn't have to live in fear.
What are you afraid of?
Well, we've received a bunch of credible threats. I've already had the police and come to my house. My family's currently packing up, and they're going into hiding.
So I understand you don't like Islam. You clearly equate Islam with terrorism. You served it in Iraq. You served proudly in the Marines.
Okay, hold on.
Well, before he gets into that question,
because
he pretty much, first of all, the way it was clear by asking him, "What are you afraid of?" His premise is that there shouldn't be anything to be afraid of, and then he dismissed credible threats. How do you not know that these are not credible threats? I mean, we got two guys that drove from the mosque that they're protesting from 2,000 or 1,000 miles to either A, kill a bunch of people and die, or B, fail to kill a bunch of people and die, or maybe C, fail to kill a bunch of people and get arrested. But either way, they were seriously attempting to kill people, and those people were indiscriminately targeting people who were at an event where they were drawing Muhammad. What about if you were specifically targeted?
Right.
How in the hell does A.C. Cooper not know that there's something to be a little bit... Okay, maybe if he doesn't care about dying, he shouldn't be afraid. If you don't really care whether or not you're alive tomorrow or not, or whether you could be out with your family and some guy runs up to you right in the back of the head and just fires point blank right in front of your wife and children, if that's okay to you, maybe there's nothing to be afraid of. But this guy definitely has that to worry about.
Yes,
for sure.
Because of who he's messing with.
Definitely.
He's involved with some of the worst of the worst. And I don't know what they're teaching in that mosque, but apparently they're teaching to where two of their followers go out and defend their prophet Muhammad by attempting to kill those who insult Muhammad.
And so that all being said, how does Anderson ask that question thinking
there's nothing to fear?
Who is his audience that's like, yeah, what do you got to fear? That's his audience. What are you scared of? Are you scared of the people in the mosque praying? What the hell just happened in Texas? The guy comes all the way from this exact mosque.
Okay.
Oh, now, and then the next question was, see, you're a Marine.
Okay.
Marines are afraid.
Hold on. Here's where he goes with this. This is why I'm going to set this up.
By the way, I'm a Marine too, or former Marine, whatever you want to call them. 4 years in the Marine Corps.
As a Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Well, it's weird. It's different everywhere. We were taught you never say ex-Marine, because you're always a Marine, you say former Marine. But then I've talked to Marines since then. They're like, oh, you don't say former Marine because once a Marine, always a Marine. Well, we were just told not to say ex-Marine. I guess you'd be an ex-Marine if you got kicked out.
A Marine vet.
Yeah, I mean, I do that too, Marine vet. But if you just say I'm a Marine, it's like, really? Where are you stationed? Well, I'm at home now. What do you mean I'm stationed?
Stationed in my house.
I mean,
I'm held up. I'm bunkered.
I think that former Marine is appropriate. I think that covers everything. And plus, that's what we were taught back in the 90s, that you refer to yourself as former Marine.
I'm held up deep in the bunker.
So yeah, I mean, obviously,
okay,
if fear, you just because you say, well, yeah, I fear for my life, doesn't mean you're a coward.
No,
it means that there are real
aware.
threats.
Yeah, you are cognitive and aware of credible threats upon your life, and it's not that the fear is in you, it's the fear, you're not scared in your heart.
Did you say scared?
Yeah.
Oh, he pulled the Joe Pesci.
But it's your wife and children. I literally fear more for my wife and children than I do my personal body. I have more fear that something could happen to them when I'm not around.
But also, doesn't it make you feel kind of sick to your stomach to know that if you got taken out right now, what would come of your family?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's not this fear like there's a boogeyman underneath my bed and I'm 6 years old. That's what he's trying to do.
That's what he's trying to say.
Yes.
He's like, what do you think this is? Some sort of a boogeyman?
What are you, 6?
And
you're a little boy. You're a little boy, all scaredy cat.
You're nothing to be scared of. No, but here's another thing. As a Marine or former Marine or Marine, current Marine, whatever the hell you want to call me, I am unbelievably insulted by this last question. Well, you're a Marine. Well, you're saying you did a tour in Iraq and you did all this stuff and you're Marine. You say you're a Marine. You say you're a Marine.
Wait to the next
but
one.
You're also gonna say you're scared. What kind of Marine are you? You know, is that the line of questioning that I'm hearing?
Oh, it gets worse.
Oh,
it gets worse.
So insulted.
Cooper tends to now continue to go Cooper.
And we should honor that service. You served in support of an Islamic government in Iraq. So if you hate Islam, how do you justify having done that?
Well, the core values of Islam is what I really hate.
But you were promoting an Islamic government. You were helping bolster an Islamic government in Iraq. So why were you doing that?
Okay. Well, let me answer it like this. I was over there, and I was following orders. I was
So
young.
do you feel you were supporting terrorists while you were supporting an Islamic government in Iraq? Do you say the Marines who have been fighting in Afghanistan are supporting terrorism as well?
No, I do not. Let me finish. I was uneducated when I went over there. I was a junior Marine following orders. I was scared, but I wasn't uneducated about Islam. It wasn't until I came home and utilized my 9/11 GI Bill and.
But now that you're allegedly educated on Islam, you were supporting an Islamic government in Iraq. So are you saying that Marines and others who are currently serving in Afghanistan and elsewhere are supporting terrorists?
If their government is going to be run under Sharia law and stuff, then yeah, I don't support that.
It's not Sharia law, but it is an Islamic government. So you believe that all active duty service members right now are supporting terrorism around the world?
No, I do not believe that.
He's making...
Dude.
Anderson, here's the problem with Anderson's line of questioning. Almost every one of them, he has to make an unsubstantiated leap of logic. I mean, almost every question...
What is that? So he's trying to pigeon him in the corner and pigeonhole him in this...
Yeah, by throwing in leaps of logic.
So you're telling me... So what you're saying here, because I got to reiterate what you're saying to let you know what you're saying.
Which is not what he's saying.
But I'm going to add some more words to it.
Right.
Okay, so you're telling me that all active service duty members in the entire world
are supporting
a terrorist government.
terrorist government. Yeah, and then I like the way. Okay, so he makes those leaps of logic, but then points out, well, just because it's an Islamic government doesn't mean it's Sharia law. Where does he come up with that leap of logic? Where? How? What? I mean, has he not been paying attention? We're talking about educated and uneducated. Where's Anderson Cooper lie on that spectrum? I mean, I don't. At this point in my knowledge of Islam, Islamic State, all the governments that I've been paying attention to over there, how is Sharia law not a part of an Islamic government?
Well, and if they are not, if the government is run, like say take Iran for example. Iran is run in an Islamic fashion with the head Ayatollah Khomeini, the head imam, if you will, of the entire country.
Are they not under Sharia law? I mean, you tell me.
The last time I heard somebody tried to... Oh, that was North Korea. Well, they're under a dictatorship and all kinds of crazy stuff. But no, Iran, you can't... you just can't do things there like you can in America. Iran is run... The Ayatollah Khomeini hands down rules and laws to the, if you will, president, El Presidente, who is a figurehead, the former one, Mahmoud, did a whack job. Who was a former president. And when the Ayatollah would hand down the law to him, he would then proceed to tell the people, this is what the Ayatollah is what it's going to be. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so it will be in line with the Quran. Maybe there might not be female circumcisions. Maybe there might be. But under the Sharia law, I don't know how much of the Sharia law is implemented. But if portions or some of it are implemented, well, then it's Sharia law.
But you're saying that if it's not 100% top to bottom Sharia law, then Anderson Cooper could be right in saying, well, yeah, it's an Islamic government, but it's not Sharia law.
I think Anderson Cooper is, and this is the first time I'm just brainstorming this, but I think if there are portions of Sharia law that are implemented, then you are under Sharia law. Like, say there's 10 points of Sharia law, and you're only implementing 2 of them. You're going down the road of Sharia law.
Let me play devil's advocate. What if there is a community in America that has a totally legal government, legal laws, none of them violate the Constitution, all of them are on the up and up, but they have a law, and I'm sorry I can't give you an example, that also is a law in Sharia law, and it's not illegal. It's not. Would that be Sharia law then? Just because one of the legal American laws just happens to be the same one. Like, let's just say like the thou shalt not kill.
Well, but that's not under Sharia law.
It's not, but I'm just using that as an example.
Because Sharia law says thou shalt kill.
So maybe that was a horrible example. No, but let's just say that somebody's like, you can't implement Jewish law or whatever.
You can't walk down the street naked.
Okay, let's just say that those two have the same law.
Right.
Does that mean that community is not?
No, because they're implementing American law. Because they're in America.
But they have a law that is also a Sharia law.
Right. Well, the American law supersedes Sharia law.
Okay.
And well, it would be which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, Sharia law or American law? If they're both the same law, then you're not under Sharia law. You're under American law.
Well, let's say in Iraq you have a Islamic government that's not following all the Sharia law, but one of their laws happens to agree with a Sharia law. You're saying that is Sharia law.
I say I say you're under. It's like.
But it's the same thing.
It's like being under attack. All my guys haven't been killed. None of us have died, but we're currently being assaulted.
You're being attacked.
We're under attack. So if there is one law of Sharia law,
this is the greatest analogy ever. So being under Sharia law is
one Sharia law is being under Sharia law because you are being under assault,
under attack.
Sharia law.
So if one of your guys gets attacked, you're under attack.
Right. That's why we do this show in an underground
Bunker.
Bunker.
Wow.
Bunker
Okay.
down.
So this guy has had fatwa. That's the word.
Oh,
Put on him.
fatwa.
Yeah, and he's not fat, but he's on fat. And he may be, actually. I haven't seen a picture of him. By the way, did you hear Ann Coulter? She's got that global warming thing going. Is it global warming?
Coulter?
Oh no, it's immigration.
Yeah, immigration.
Yeah, immigration. She's got the immigration book.
Well, you know,
out.
the immigration thing is causing global warming.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Man, do you have her soundbite? Are we leaving everybody hanging, aren't we?
Everybody is hanging out to dry Tuesday.
She had the greatest soundbite. Did you hear her this week?
No.
Oh, I wish I'd known that you didn't, because I would have totally told you to get that soundbite. Oh, we are letting down all of our fans on that one. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that later. But yeah, Under Attack. What are you looking up?
The laws of Sharia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I mean, I can't argue with your point and your analogy that if a country is under any Sharia laws, then it's under Sharia law.
Right.
Because you same as if one of your guys is under attack.
Yeah, your behavior is legally, like your own personal choices. Like you can go in America, you can go out and drink alcohol. It's legal. You can go out and make your own alcohol.
Well, unless you live in Kentucky in a dry county.
Right, or you could drive to another state and buy alcohol.
No. In Kentucky, you just go in the hills.
Oh, and get a canister.
A canister.
A
jar.
A mason
jar
of moonshine.
Okay.
You smoke cigarettes. Eat candy. Chew bubble gum. I mean, just certain things. That behavior of yours, eating bonbons by the fire while drinking wine, those behaviors are governed by Sharia law. So when a law governs like my behavior to put my foot all the way down on the gas pedal and drive as fast as the vehicle will go until the only thing that slows me down is the governor or a bridge abutment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
That behavior is governed by American law because...
Or the abutment.
The abutment law, because I am risking the freedom of others.
Life, limb,
right.
property.
However, in Sharia law, they will govern all of your behaviors.
Okay. Including behaviors such as going to school if you're a female.
Right. And they take away the freedoms of certain human beings depending on whether your genitalia is what they say it should or should not be.
Was that the whole sound clip from Anderson Cooper?
No. Okay, we're going back. Okay. Anyway, Sharia law. We just did our whole wrap up. I'm under assault.
He makes a lot of unsubstantiated leaps of logic, which I don't. It's like when you hear somebody give you a question or give somebody a question on a false premise or an improper premise. He is the king of that in this interview. I mean, it's like, I don't agree with your premise is what I would start off with with answering of any of these questions. But go ahead.
But they're supporting Islamic governments, and you believe Islam equals terrorism.
I do not believe that.
You don't believe that Islam at its core is terrorism?
Oh, yes. True Islam is terrorism, yes. The ones that are out committing these atrocities and stuff, they're following the book as it's written.
So let me bring in Phil. Phil, in terms of what the U.S. is trying to achieve in the Islamic world, what Marines and others are fighting and dying for, do events like this thing that's going to happen tomorrow in Phoenix, do you believe it actually hurts the U.S. outreach to the vast majority of the Muslim world?
I see this kind of event, and I look at ISIS, and I know what they're going to say. This is proof that what we're telling you to recruit you out of Denver, out of Phoenix, out of Los Angeles, out of New York, that's true. They talk to you about democracy, free speech, and living with your religion, regardless of what it is in America, but they don't live that in practice.
Mr. Ritzheimer, I think Phil brings up...
I am not going to live with the idea that if I exercise my freedom of speech, I'm going to get gunned down.
Right.
The hell is he talking about?
He's trying to do the double standard thing. See, look at these. He's speaking for ISIS in this sense. He's putting himself in the shoes of an ISIS warrior
or propagandist.
And saying that, well, I'm ISIS, and well, look at you. Look at all your Americans. Look, you say freedom of religion, but look, you're suppressing our religion. So you must join us to fight.
I mean,
it's a twist of logic.
I don't care. I think not only does he have the right to go and protest a mosque that has people coming out of it driving 1,000 miles to commit a terrorist act under the teachings of that mosque. I have no problem with that. And if it means that it's going to give the propagandists in Islam some sort of a way to spin that into meaning that their lies have some sort of substantiation of some sort, I don't care. There's nothing wrong with him exercising his freedom of speech in that manner. And not only do I support it, but I encourage it, because I don't think that you should have the right to go and try to kill somebody in America because they are doing something under the freedom that is legal under the Bill of Rights that offends you.
Right. Well, not only that, but I've got to say this: if you're listening to the interview and you're wondering, hey, John Ritzheimer, he sounds a little unprepared, or
he does sound a little bit, but he's a rookie.
The question that was asked and not asked and re-asked. No, I am going to put this out there. Anderson Cooper has been on the air for a long time. For him to have a guest on, and the guest either misinterprets his question, misanswers his question, or things don't seem to be flowing smoothly, it's Anderson Cooper.
Oh, and that's by design.
Oh, yeah, he's doing it on purpose.
Because his
trip
agenda...
him up, to make him look...
bad. Yeah.
Make John look like some kind of hayseed, backwoods hayseed.
Yeah, and that's why the unsubstantiated leaps of logic, the improper and false premises, are in there on purpose the way they are. And basically what it is let's muddy up the water so bad that the attempt to answer one question ends up not flowing with the attempts to answer the interrupted additional questioning. That's what it was.
Right.
It was like, as you're answering the question, let me interrupt you and make your original answer not flow with the next.
Right.
That's exactly what it was.
And back in my day, as I was on the stand in front of 12 jurors, and the prosecuting attorney approached me, and this was at the end of the day, and started to ask questions and talk over me and try and fluster me and fumble things up, I looked over at the judge and I said, Your Honor, I don't know.
I don't know what the question is.
Yes. That's exactly what I did. The judge told the prosecuting attorney to calm down, in other words, and by that end, it was like there was no more questions. Wow. And I sewed everybody's story together anyway, so it's all good. Oh, but that's how these people attempt to win, by bashing you, by talking over you, by trying to make you look, he's talking slow.
Well,
I'm talking
meanwhile,
fast.
So Anderson Cooper's allowed to do that, but did you hear what happened in Baltimore? There was a press conference, and there were a lot of national types there.
Yeah.
And so he started asking her whether or not she, if this is maybe the mayor.
Oh, okay.
Ask her if all this rioting and the additional deaths,
right.
Huge death toll from murders. Murders have gone through the roof in Baltimore. Meanwhile, the arrests have fallen out through the floor. There's hardly any arrests. meaning the police have kind of stood down, and the murderers had just been like, well, hell, I guess it's free reign.
Well, the mayor told them to stand down and let the anarchists...
Oh, well, that was before. But so this guy from maybe from Fox News or something like that, but he was a national journalist, asked her if this was her fault, and she started to answer the question, and he kind of interrupted her, and
like if they start to answer the question that they wish you would have asked
with a non-answer,
or a
that's
non-answer,
exactly what she was going to do.
You have to kind of pull them back on track.
Because they'll filibuster.
Right.
So she was going to filibuster
like a
with
laser
a
beam.
complete non-answer. This is what was starting to come out of her mouth. Him being a professional journalist, realized, oh, here comes the non-answer. Let me clarify or add to my question to make it more of a focused question to keep her from going off on a general tangent. Like, well, generally, we're doing the right things and we're trying hard.
Mostly everybody is good.
Right. So he kind of interrupts her a little bit, and another journalist in the room can be overheard clearly saying, let her finish answering the question.
Oh, my goodness!
Yeah, pretty much. And this was, I thought, okay, what was this, an aid? Was this an aide helping her out? Right. You know, kind of like during the debate.
It was an aide helping her out.
That's right, it was.
It's the sick biased media that has to keep Fox News in check.
Right. So he goes, why don't you let her answer or stop interrupting her, you know? And so she takes on the cue. She takes the cue and says, oh, okay. Immediately, now it's a team effort, and she goes, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but things don't work that way around here.
Yeah, law don't go around here, dog.
It don't work that way around here. And you could tell that exact wording out of her mouth could only have happened because she knew that she's in with local buddies.
She was in with like company.
And they're all local.
Supporters.
They're all. That's the way we do things round here.
Right.
And you ain't from round here.
You go back to your Hollywood.
You go back to wherever. Back to that Fox News place. That faux news. Faux news. You know, low information voters, they see that and they think it's pronounced Fox.
I was going to say it is Fox. It's Fox News is FAUX.
Right. But it's that would be pronounced faux. But
it's French. Doesn't matter. It's all French.
It's faux.
All right, let's wrap up this interview with Anderson Cooper.
Point. Aren't you playing into the narrative of ISIS, of Al-Qaeda, which is basically trying to say there's a war between Islam and the West, and you have to choose. You can't be a Muslim in the United States. You have to be opposed to the United States. Aren't you playing into their hands? Isn't this exactly the reaction and the message that the terrorists want?
Sure,
it is? So,
sure.
Okay, so you're playing into ISIS and Al-Qaeda hands. Do you feel good about that?
I'm just doing what I have to do to make sure that my children have a good future.
You don't believe...
Okay, hold on. Let me stop it right here. This is where
I can tell you what he missed.
I'm watching the video of this.
Are you jumping out of your skin?
Oh yeah, but John is clearly annoyed with everything that's gone down, and he's getting the feeling that Anderson Cooper is there to trick him and trip him up. Dude, he is clearly, if you see the video, the footage.
Oh, I could tell. I could picture. I can see them in my head. Believe me. But I agree with the answer of sure or yes, because I do agree with the premise of that. But what needs to be said and is omitted by design by Anderson Cooper is that there is nothing he can do to add to this war that they're waging on the United States.
Right.
He's not aiding or adding. This is his solution. And Anderson and
his final solution.
This is his response to the war on the United States by Islam. That there's nothing ignoring it. See, the liberals and Anderson Cooper and the communists, whatever, all the people on the left, think that the best course of action is to ignore it. And by doing what he's doing, is this John?
Yes.
Okay. So by doing what John's doing, he's doing the opposite of ignoring it, which is then adding to the problem. And I disagree with that completely.
Right.
Ignoring it isn't going to make it go away.
I get the feeling, the very strong feeling, that Anderson Cooper's trying to say that by what John is doing with this protest is actually inciting, inflaming, and causing ISIS and all the violence to escalate. And if John didn't do this stuff,
then it wouldn't be as bad.
It might not go away, but oh man, certainly wouldn't be nearly.
I think we need to set more mousetraps. And by the way, this John Ritzheimer interview would put. I see what you're saying. So Anderson Cooper and Rand Paul are on the same page. You hear the latest?
Yeah, it was so just.
Anderson Cooper, his entire point here is to say that what John's doing by not ignoring the war on America by the jihadists in Islam, by not ignoring it, you're actually aiding and adding to it and giving them the firepower that they need socially to get people to agree, oh yeah, this fight is a worthy cause against America. And by ignoring it, that somehow they make it. So Rand Paul came out this week, committing political suicide.
I don't,
because I was always, believe me, I'm so reserved about my excitement over him because of what he did to Bevins in Kentucky,
and I know he's not his dad because he is his dad's son.
He's very close now. I can see it now.
However, the saying that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, when you get older and you realize that your parenting skills sound like your mother or your father, you now know the apple has not fallen far from the tree.
Right. And sometimes you got to fight that because
boy, especially if you want the violence to stop.
Oh wow! Whoa! So
the image of Jim Carrey in the shower.
Oh yeah.
He did that twice. He did once in the shower during Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
The very first one. And the second time he did it again, but it wasn't in a shower. It was in the porta potty. It was in the bathroom stall.
But was that
Dumb and
Dumber? Right.
So he pretended to be.
Well, it was a parody of a movie with the girl in the shower.
So rape is now a parody?
Well, you can parody that.
Wow.
I'm not condoning.
If you're a man
parodying
a woman
that has been raped, all of a sudden it becomes funny.
And your name is not Ned Beatty?
Oh. Wow. You need to have that one queued
up.
No, just a sound clip of him squealing like a pig.
Oh, dude!
Wow.
Dude!
Woo, this is a family show.
Yes.
Oh, we just do that. So Rand Paul, when Ron Paul was out, we all thought he was a complete nutjob kook because he was an extreme isolationist. Right after 9/11.
Right.
And we were all like, dude, 9/11 just happened. Of course we're going to go and kick butt and take names. And you're telling us that we, by reacting the way we are to the war against America, that we are actually causing it.
Right, and we needed to put up steel walls all the way around America, bring all the troops home, lock down the doors, batten down the hatches,
and just hope like hell.
Scream to all the children to come on in.
Yeah.
And don't let nobody outside.
Oh, well, here's what will happen. I will admit that if all the countries in the world right now remained exactly as they are, and we all left and went into America and put up huge walls and didn't let anybody in and had very, very, very strict immigration policy and all that stuff.
Right.
I believe that we would probably be okay for eternity. But what? No, I mean really. But here's what'll happen: you'll have somebody like a Hitler or somebody that will come up in the Middle East, especially in a caliphate.
I mean, Hitler is an absolute perfect example of this situation because America refused to get involved.
Right, and so here's what would happen. Somebody, and most likely it would be an Islamic leader that would be in charge. He would be the leader of the caliphate.
Right.
They would then combine countries into one Islamic state, and so then you would have like Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya,
North Korea.
So it would start with this giant African, Middle Eastern blob on the map that would be the new Islamic State, similar to the Ottoman Empire back in the day.
Right.
And that would be one country. And with all the resources that they would have, and they would gain momentum because they would all be under one law and all be working together. They would then start to swallow up neighboring countries one by one by one, and it would keep on going until they became so powerful that the oceans would not be enough, and our big giant 20-foot high steel walls would not be enough to prevent them from just coming over and just obliterating us.
And due to technology back in the early 1940s, France literally ran to the shores of the ocean and screamed across the strait to England, "Please come get us!" So England sent ships over to pick up hundreds of thousands of French people who were fleeing France because Hitler had taken over all of France. Wasn't nowhere else to go. So they ran to England. And then all of a sudden, Winston Churchill said to America, "We need your help. You got to get in this." And then Japan, thinking that America was a paper tiger, meaning you could just be ripped right in half, went ahead and bombed in Hawaii, and said, this is we're coming the back door. Hitler's going the front door. And so when FDR talked with Winston Churchill, and he said, "What do you need?" Winston Churchill's reply was, "Send men, and more men."
Well, and I'd just like to address all the conspiracy theorists that thought that
Pearl Harbor was on purpose to make us get in.
Now, okay, I'm just going to go logically here. Common sense wise, you tell me how somehow you would benefit by allowing somebody. Where do you win? How do you come out ahead when you say, "I'm going to let a country almost completely destroy our entire navy"?
See, that was the thing, too. It just happened to be a specific time to where there were so many ships.
Yeah, it was a vast percentage of our entire navy. Can you imagine how long it takes to build a battleship and aircraft carriers?
Back in them days.
Yeah,
back in them days.
Yeah, and even today it takes. Somebody needs to probably text us to let us know how long it takes. I'm sure somebody knows it right off the top of their head. How long it takes
to say to build a battleship might be a year.
You would think. So, how on earth could allowing a country who could very well invade let's say if it's Japan, invade California, Oregon, Washington, any one of those places and start to then conquer America, why would you take the risk of allowing them to destroy a majority of your navy in one battle? So the idea that it was somehow his plan, "Oh yeah, we're going to let them destroy all of our ships. That'll give America the resolve to get in this fight." Are you nuts? I mean, that's just putting too much at risk, and I will have to admit.
The USS Missouri, 1944 to 1998, 3 years
To make.
Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense.
3 years. So in 1944, when she, I guess the USS Missouri set sail in 44, and then was decommissioned, put out to pasture, and launched 29th of January 29th of 1944. It took 3 years to build.
So that thing was already started by the time...
In 1941. Yeah. They said it laid down and started January 6th of 1941.
Okay, so you're saying, or I'm saying, I guess a conspiracy theorist could say, but Carrie, don't you know all those ships, they were obsolete, and we had a whole bunch that were in the process of already being built. They've already been started, so we don't have to wait from scratch. They were in, they call that WIP.
Yeah,
Work in progress. Work in progress.
progress.
We had a giant WIP. and we got all these ships that were totally obsolete, and we need to get these Americans fired up and whipped up into a frenzy to get us into this war.
Oh, man, wow.
I'm out. I'm out. I fold. I'm done with that.
Okay. Let's wrap up the last bit of this interview with AC360 and John.
I believe that this is playing into the narrative of what ISIS and Al-Qaeda is trying to shed. I mean, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, to Phil's point, is pushing this narrative that there is a war between Islam and the West. You fully believe there's a war between Islam and the West, I guess, yes?
Yes.
So you see yourself as a foot soldier somehow in a war. So you think that it's wise for the West to have war against the billion-plus Muslims around the world?
Jing, that it is a war.
No, I don't want war, but they need to learn tolerance. We're not the ones out committing these acts. We're not the one threatening anybody.
You don't
by believing
think
otherwise.
Bringing guns to a mosque while families are praying inside, wearing T-shirts that say "F Islam" and shouting whatever it is you're going to shout at them as they come and as they go, you don't think that's promoting violence at all?
I think the whole thing is, the cartoon contest especially, I think it's stupid and ridiculous, but it's what needs to take place in order to expose the true colors of Islam.
Interesting. That's a good answer.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, one-word answers are never good, especially when it's a giant paragraph of a question with all kinds of false premises, pretenses, and asterisks.
And to John's on John's behalf, since we don't have him here in the studio with us,
next hour.
Stay tuned. Next hour live.
He's in the green room.
He's doing show prep himself.
We actually painted the bathroom green.
Oh man!
No, he did it.
The problem is that he is. No, I'm sorry. Let me not start it off by saying the problem is. The situation is that John is an average American who has served his country, loves his country, is a total Tea Party patriot type of individual that wants to stop Muslims and using the Islamic religion to steal and rob other people's freedoms. He wants to stop this, and he feels helpless in America because there's nowhere to get help. So his whole point is, I'm going to expose them for who they are by doing whatever we can do and using the rules and laws that we have. So I'm going to protest, and we're going to do a contest, and we're going to make fun of Muhammad, and we're going to stir things up to show you how violent these people will get.
Yeah, if there wasn't a single incident at that thing, wow, that would make us not look so good. I can't believe, Anderson, this entire line of questioning can only make him look like he has the upper hand if you can completely ignore the fact that two people come from this mosque that they're protesting and drove 1,000 miles to go kill a bunch of Americans.
Right. Well, but my point,
you have to ignore that.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, absolutely. But here's the whole thing, though, is that I'm sure CNN said, "Oh, let's get this guy John on. Somebody call his cell phone, get a hold of him." So they got a hold of him. They talk to him on the phone. They find out that he's just an average, normal, everyday American who is not prepped for show. He's not prepped for prime time. Oh, man. They saw this coming. They're like, what are we going to do? Let's get him on AC360.
Yeah, most people...
And we won't prep him. Or we will prep him by telling him, just relax, feel comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? You speak from the heart what you feel.
I'm sure.
I've been on the set.
I know.
I've been on the set. I know it.
Brian's not guessing here. He is telling you from experience.
Boy, they start to talk to you like they're your buddy, they're your friend. They sympathize, they empathize. They've been there, they've done that. You know what, man? What you're doing is a good thing. I mean, that was the last words they said to him before the girl swung her finger in the air and said, 3, 2.
Yeah.
And we're back with Anderson Cooper. Hey, John.
So what was the
Can
last
I call
thing?
you John?
Can I call you J-Boy?
Whoa, whoa. This is a family-friendly show, and we do not make fun of J-Boys.
What's a J-Boy? That is...
Whew.
Well, I don't know.
You need to go on the Urban Dictionary.
I never heard of it. I just said J-Boy. Does that mean something?
Oh, boy.
Oh,
yeah, man. Oh,
somebody
my.
get on the Google. The producer is freaking out.
You can hear the keys just frantically tearing away.
No, they're freaking out. Like, shh, what are you doing?
Don't go to the Google. Don't look for J-Boy.
Yeah.
No, but the whole thing is that here's how Hollywood works. They love sensationalism. And when they saw that reality, and I'm using air quotes. Oh, Lord. Go ahead. He's found J-Boy.
So anyway, what were you saying? We are totally moving on.
Are we not supposed to talk about this? Am I just supposed to...
I had no idea. I've never...
This is a family-friendly show, and Anderson would ask him, can I call you J-Boy?
Oh, man. Well, I have never heard that before. So the Urban Dictionary comes through again.
Yes. Wow.
Woo!
Now that the heat is on.
If he had said, can I call you J-Boy, he may have gotten fired. He may have been fired for
because, they're hip to the urban lingo.
All right.
So, but no, Hollywood loves sensationalism. And when they instantly saw that the word reality TV, air quotes, people love to watch that. It's like... that show Big Brother where they got the camera on the people in the room and people love the voyeuristic viewing, kind of like the show that Jim Carrey did.
Oh, the Truman
Show.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole thing, the voyeuristic viewing, if you will. They saw that reality show when they were filming it, that they needed the spice. Because naturally we don't, as human beings, do what Hollywood does. Unless you are... that's for another show. So, J-Boy not included. So, when they see, or they put together 5 or 6 people, they're just average Americans around the country, 5 or 6 people, put them together, and say, okay, be reality. Do something. Go ahead, do something.
Do something.
Well, what do we normally do? When you turn the camera on your kids, when they're doing something, your kids are doing something funny, or somebody at work is doing something funny, and you turn the camera on, what happens?
It's deer in a headlight.
Instantly.
Yeah.
So they've got to overcome that. And how do they overcome that?
They start acting fake.
Well, the producer starts to sweet talk them.
Oh, okay.
Starts to
if you feel like you have to. If you feel like you have to. But most of the people just the one-word answer portion of that interview seemed like that. It seemed like deer in a headlight. Just
he shut down.
Sure.
Well, he shut down. He realized that the show prep he was given was a trick and a lie.
They set the mousetrap for him.
And they did. And I've been there where he was at, and I may be projecting too much, but I love to talk to him about it. Where he was at in that interview, I've been there before.
Where all of a sudden you realize, oh crap, here's the trap.
They got me. No, you've been had.
And
I
now,
was had.
can you wiggle out of the trap at that point?
And then you realize you can't. So what do? You shut down.
You're like, all right, I'll just relax and let it happen. Wow. And I am not speaking from experience.
Because you clenched.
Oh man.
Where's that Ned Beatty interview? Lord have mercy.
Oh, you have no what is that, sympathy for
good old Ned.
Ned Beatty.
No, not too much. So we have Turkish leaders calling on all Muslims to invade Jerusalem to create a one-world Islamic empire.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was breaking news.
Why is it taking this long? I mean, I figure that's happened already. Or
it's time to revive the Ottoman Empire and conquer
We
Jerusalem.
already had that show. Remember that? We talked all about that, and of course I got corrected by my dad. I pointed out, okay, this caliphate is nothing more than reinstituting the Ottoman Empire. My dad pointed out that during the Ottoman Empire, there were Christians in it, and they were tolerated.
Right.
And I didn't know that. I just figured, oh, it's an Islamic empire. Everybody in there's Islamic, and of course there wouldn't be anybody in there of other faiths. But apparently there were. It was almost not. I don't know. I mean, almost like freedom of religion, maybe. Like mostly Islamic, but there were maybe a church here and there, and maybe a synagogue, or I mean, it doesn't sound like the kind of caliphate that you would imagine happening today, which would be mass beheadings. Anybody that doesn't say that I'm 100% completely screen door Muslim is going to be beheaded, which is what you would imagine would happen today.
Right.
And during the Ottoman Empire, according to... Now, my dad wasn't alive during the Ottoman Empire. He may not be the youngest person in the world, but he was not alive. He did not live in the Ottoman Empire. So where he's coming from is just based on history books that he's read, which is that they were more tolerant of religious freedom than what you see in the Middle East today.
Right.
So.
Well, and this was posted up by Bridget Gabriel. I'm friends with her on Facebook. Her and I, we go way, way back.
Okay.
Earlier, you heard that sound bite of her giving a very coherent smackdown on the Muslim. Apparently, Minnesota Muslims are being brutally honest. They did a on-the-street interview where they interviewed girls and boys as young as 15 years old and asked them about Sharia law and certain ins and outs, things like that. And they were brutally honest. They said, yes, we want Sharia law. That's what we want.
These were all Muslims, right?
Yeah. Because apparently Minnesota is also being overrun by Muslims.
Well, they have a lot of Somalians, don't they?
Okay.
I thought that there's a huge... there's like a big pocket of Somalians, which, by the way, are Islamic. But I don't know why I know that. There was some news story a couple years ago that was somehow a part of it. And, Minnesota's got some population of Somalians.
They interviewed a woman wearing a pink hijab. I didn't know you were allowed to wear a pink one.
I don't know if they're intolerant of different colors. I'm sure that they are.
Maybe it wasn't the full garb.
Well, maybe it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Well, I mean, you
got to be aware of breast cancer.
Yeah, I mean.
So a woman wearing a pink hijab and traditional dress was asked if it's okay for her father to make his young daughter marry a man of his choice. Her answer was, yeah, he can. he has the authority, to do that.
Okay.
How young do you think it is how young do you think it is to be okay? She answered, 15.
Okay. All right.
I think she's under duress. Or distress.
I mean, it would make sense. I mean, considering the kind of oppressive religion that it is. I mean, they got to say what they got to say. It's just like, do you love the dear leader? That question posed to all the North Koreans. I mean, you know what the answer is going to be.
Oh boy, when Kim Jong-il died, they folks, I mean, you got to YouTube some of this stuff. When Kim Jong-il died in North Korea, I mean, it really shook me to my core.
Did it?
I mean, I had goosebumps on my goosebumps.
Okay.
Watching the absolute and utter hysteria. Like, there's no...
Because when Michael Jackson died, there was a lot of...
No, this
put Michael Jackson to shame?
This was nothing.
Wow.
They ran to the center of town and wailing. I mean, wailing. It would be... I mean...
How did Dennis Rodman take it?
Oh, he was wailing.
Oh, my goodness.
So, but I mean, if you could imagine... and it's tough to think about this sometimes, but if you have a child, and say your child is, 9, 10, 15, somewhere around that age, young age, you've lived with them long enough, and you've taught them enough, and you've got to know your child, and so you got a close relationship, and all of a sudden, one day, poof, they're gone, they're dead, it's all over with. I can only imagine, the emotional toll it would take on me and my wife, and wailing.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing this to their dear leader Kim Jong-il exponentially more, almost like it was a forced wailing to make sure the guy next to me wasn't wailing harder than me.
Oh, you don't want to be wailing less than the guy in comparison.
I want to be known as the guy who wailed the hardest.
You don't want to lose that competition at all.
And
you
there
might
were
lose
rows and rows and rows of wailers. So you can imagine the, what do they call it? The mob effect.
Okay.
The mob effect that started to take place.
Well, I'm not super old, but I'm to that age now where I notice things that I've never noticed before, and one of them is that there is an increasing population of people who were either too young or not even alive to see certain events that I did. And when you have a dear leader that has been in charge of a country for so long, there's probably a significant portion of that population who was born into it, born into, this is our dear leader.
Right.
Or was either, or maybe very, very young.
And now that you say that, I mean, a lot of this video was taken of people between the ages of and I'm just guessing, but it was no older than 40. So I'd say 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of younger, and you can see that a lot of them were single because they were by themselves. It wasn't like husband and wife holding hands and things like that. There were a lot of single, middle-aged to young people. So
they weren't even alive before this guy took their entire life. This is our dear leader.
Who is the president of your lifetime?
Well, I mean, I'm old enough to say, there's just a handful of presidents.
It would have to be Reagan.
Well, for my childhood, yeah, definitely.
Right. However, you grew up under Jimmy Carter.
Well, yeah, I don't even... The first time I understood that we had a president... You're dating yourself.
I'm dating you.
Brian and I...
You're older than me by at least 10 years.
No. Okay, so Brian and I are very close in age, relatively speaking, but we're just far enough apart in age to where we couldn't hang out when we were kids.
Barely.
We couldn't.
Barely.
We couldn't. We were that far. So when we were really young, it was like, oh, Brian's the old man.
Yeah.
And I was the brat that everybody had to stay away from because I was the younger one.
And when you think about it, a kid who's 8 years old hanging out with a kid who's 11,
it doesn't work at all. No. So that being
not
said,
only that, but I hung out with your brother,
my older brother, right,
who used to pick on you.
Yeah, and so you had to pick on me too. But that's how it happens. That's
I mean, that's what you follow suit.
But it's weird because
did I really pick on you?
I felt like it. I felt it.
Yeah?
But it might not have been real.
Might have been projection.
I felt it. I was like, well, Eric's always picking on me, and now he's friends with this guy.
So he has to be.
So now it's 2-on-1. It's messed up.
Yeah.
So anyway, that being said, even though we're relatively close in age, we're actually miles apart when you consider Reagan came into office in 81. He won the election in 80, started actually being president in 81. I don't remember a single day of Carter's presidency. But Brian, being just a teeny bit older, probably remembers a little bit of Carter's presidency.
Well, I guess the only thing I really remember, and this is grasping for straws, is the whole gas crunch.
Oh my gosh, how old are you?
Well, that happened in late 78, 79.
Well, man, I don't know that.
Everybody's rationing.
I definitely don't remember that. Oh man, but I find it very foreign. Well, no, I guess I shouldn't. Okay, I'm at that age where Brian and we don't know nothing about Vietnam except from the effects.
Right.
The only thing we know about Vietnam is the propaganda coming out of Oliver Stone.
Right.
Him and so any Hollywood communists that came out with propaganda, all those movies, that's our exposure to Vietnam, is the movies, and all of our parents and friends' parents had some sort of experience with it, which would either be A, oh, he's a Vietnam vet, or B, oh man, I dodged it big time, either by not having my number drawn, or dodging it completely. Like my dad, I always thought my dad was a draft dodger. He must have been. He didn't go to Vietnam, right?
Right.
Come to find out, his birthday lottery was way down the line. It didn't matter whether he was in college or not.
That's funny this was brought up. I was talking to this guy at work last week. He's a grandpa.
Yeah.
I mean, he's old.
Okay.
White hair, hearing aid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, thick bottle glasses. He moves real slow. I mean, he's a grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how old he is, but he looks like he's at least in his 70s, but he's probably not that old. But he's an old guy.
Yeah.
And he said, I got my draft card. He pulled it out.
He has it on him?
He showed us his draft card.
You didn't snap a picture of it?
I went to hold it, and he took it back and stuck it back in his wallet.
Don't touch it.
He was really sensitive.
What do you think, you were going to light it on fire or something?
I don't know. But he started talking about it, and I'm like, was it the Civil War?
Oh no, you didn't.
Wow!
How old was this guy?
I had to hold that back, and I said, "No, I'm gonna let that out. That's gonna be funny."
You did say it?
No. My mind skipped a beat.
Oh, I'd say, man, this is getting senile all of a sudden.
I asked him about during the Vietnam War. Was this during Vietnam? And he's like, No. I said, well, why would you get a draft card?
Well, everybody did.
Somebody else said something about the Korean War. Like, no war. And I got more detail on the timeline. It was during the Vietnam era.
Okay.
And his draft card was a 3A.
Okay.
1A means you're a single man.
Oh, okay.
2A means you're a man that's married. 3A means you're a man that's married with child.
Okay.
1A goes first, then 2A, then 3A.
I gotcha.
He was 3A on the list, which said you were never, likelihood of you going was 0 to none.
There had to have been nukes involved for him to get
Pretty much.
Okay.
Was your dad married at the time?
Yeah, well, no. Eric was born in 72.
Yeah.
Well,
Vietnam
my dad was
pretty much
18 in 69.
Oh, yeah. So he wasn't married yet.
No, he very well could have been 1A, but he did tell me that there's 365 birthdays in a year, and so it went by your birthday, and they were drawn like a lottery.
Yep.
And if you were in the front of the picking, you were probably gone. You were drafted. Just turned out that my dad's birthday was drawn way late, and I guess it never got to him.
Huh.
But here's the thing: during that time, he would have went from a 1A to a 2, right to a 3A, because it went from Eric being born and him married right away.
Right.
So I didn't know about that 1A, 2A, 3A, but yeah, my dad would have started as a 1A and then went straight to 3A, which would have, I always thought, oh well, they drafted. See, I'm a product of the propaganda. No, my first propaganda was, oh, my dad must be a draft dodger. Right. I never asked him that, but because he didn't go to Vietnam, and he was the perfect age to go to Vietnam, I was under the impression that he went to college because if you're in college, that you don't get drafted because you're rich. And they don't draft the rich because that's what I was told by the communist propaganda.
I was told by someone who was informed by the communist propaganda.
Oh, yeah, okay. Informed? What do you mean by informed? What word are you using there? What is that?
See, I'm trying to be real careful about the names here. She told me that her husband didn't go to Vietnam.
Okay.
Because he went to college. He dodged it.
Well, maybe she didn't know that the college had nothing to do with it, that he was...
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't think she knew that. I think she was led to believe that by the communist propaganda.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't even alive until after the Vietnam War was completely over. And so everything I know about it was history, word of mouth, and Hollywood propaganda, and now these days complete leftist propaganda. The spitting. We all grew up thinking if you ever meet somebody and you find out that it's a Vietnam War veteran, you got to sprint as fast as you can in the opposite direction. Don't make eye contact.
They kill babies.
Yeah, they kill babies. They're crazy.
Right.
Because not just that the war itself made them crazy, but the act of going through military training brainwashed them into being crazy.
I think Rush did a bit on this. But you know how you get this image that Vietnam War veterans are homeless?
Oh, yeah.
Because they are all homeless.
They're all homeless because they were crazy in the 80s.
Well, they did a study. They did a study on that.
It's just criminal.
And found out how well off and fairly wealthy that era of military personnel were because of the discipline, because of the opportunities when they came back.
Okay, all right.
What veteran comes back to America and says, yeah, I know they don't like me. Well, I better be homeless.
I'm a vet, and I'm not homeless.
Well, I'm a vet, too, and the last thing I was going to do was to succumb to people spitting and hawking loogies. You just don't... We are taught to survive at all cost and thrive. You don't think we're going to come back and do that?
Well, I guess the argument they would make is that an unusual or unhealthy percentage of people who are homeless are veterans, I guess is what they would say. Something like that. But there's all kinds of theories. Okay. I always wanted to call into Rush Limbaugh's show and give him my theory on why veterans go through what they go through and why they suffer from the depression and then the homelessness, and suicide rate is higher among veterans and all that kind of stuff. But
so to wrap this up, what happened in the protest? Protests wrapped up around 9:30
in the morning.
At night.
Oh, okay.
6:15, 9:30. John Ritzheimer said, "Was it worth it? You know what? Let's ask our founding fathers if it was worth it for them to sign the Declaration of Independence. They jeopardized their families. They put their families into jeopardy. If they would have been caught, yeah, it was worth it. To have to draw the line now, Ritzheimer said, am I done with the cause? No, I can never be done with the cause. I'm still a patriot.
So he wants to declare independence from the oppression of the fear, the dark cloud of knowing that there's a whole group of people out there who, if you exercise a amendment that was written into the Constitution by our founders, you could get murdered.
Right.
And he wants the independence of that black cloud.
Right. So the president of the Islamic Center that they were protesting at, Usama Shishama.
Is that his real name?
Usama? Shemi.
I don't know.
He said he wasn't surprised by the event, and I quote, he said, "This is nothing new. Hatred, bigotry, racism. That's old. It's the same thing," he said. No different from Nazis or neo-Nazis. They don't believe society should be multicultural or multi-ethnic. They think everyone should be like them, I guess.
You mean not murderers? Okay, all right. You know what? I agree with that. I agree that we need to force them to adhere to our culture and society of non-murderers. Is that too much to ask?
Right. Well, the Shama Shishami said that he invited anyone who wanted to come in and pray with them and learn about Islam to come in. That's kind of creepy, huh? You think anybody?
Well, I don't think if I were in his shoes, I would probably do that.
Do you think anybody took him up on that?
I don't know. I would be surprised if nobody did. I mean, if I was there and I heard him say that, I'd be just morbidly curious. What's going on in here? I'd go in there and check it out.
Jason Ledger, a Phoenix resident wearing one of the profanity-laced T-shirts.
Okay.
Accepted an invitation.
All right.
To join the evening's prayer inside the mosque.
All right. Well, good for him.
And said the experience changed his life.
Really? Is he a Muslim now?
Quote, "It was something I've never seen before. I took off my shoes. I kneeled. I saw a bunch of peaceful people. We all got along," Ledger said. "They made me feel warm and welcome. You know. I just think everybody's points are getting misconstrued. Saying things out of emotion. Saying things they don't believe. I will never wear this T-shirt ever again."
Are you serious?
He said, man.
What?
Dude, I think this guy was planted.
It sounds like a plant!
And there was another one, so there was multiple. There's like 2 or 3 quotes.
If it is a plant,
the other guy said,
I've got to give him props because that's
the other guy had the F asterisk CK on his shirt, but without the asterisk. It was the actual.
Oh,
I just can't spell it for radio
because the FCC will fine us.
Right.
They will obliterate us.
Too much. So he said that he apologized to the Muslims and he swore to them he would never wear a T-shirt like this ever again.
Okay, is somebody going to explain?
Explain me something?
I want somebody to explain something. I want them. Okay, sure. I won't wear this anymore. I won't disrespect you guys. But can someone tell me what's going on here that would lead somebody from your synagogue? Wait, not synagogue. Mosque. From your mosque. Wow, we're getting woo! You like our show prep, don't you? From your mosque
from the Civil War
to decide. No, listen. To decide. You know what? I'm gonna make my point about my outrage of these people drawing Muhammad, and I'm gonna pay for it with my life.
Right.
If I have to. I'm not going to try to let somebody kill me, but I'm going to kill as many people as possible until either A, justice is served, or B, somebody stops me with a firearm.
Right. Hashtag not my America.
Oh, that's the hashtag for this.
In an open
protest.
letter to John Ritzheimer and protesting bikers in Arizona. I just highlighted all this. I'm going to blow right through it. This is part of the letter. As Muslims drive to their mosque this afternoon, they will glance more frequently in their rearview mirrors. They will avert their gaze from the direction of the mosque gate, possibly look anxiously over their shoulders. Their pace may be more hurried than normal. Some subconsciously will brace themselves for sounds of shouted slurs, gunshots, police sirens, and revving of engines.
Wait, who is worried about this?
This is an open letter to John.
Okay. Now, is he saying that Muslims will feel that way?
Yes, going to their mosque. Because today, under the guise of free speech, armed bikers plan to hold a Draw Muhammad contest and sell *CK Islamic T-shirts minus the asterisk. That's what he said in parentheses, minus the asterisk. Ritzheimer, inspired in part by rabid Islamophobic Pamela Geller. I have a message for Mr. Ritzheimer. Before you take it upon yourself to defend American values, it may be helpful to learn what they are first. 1. You cannot advocate for tolerance by being hateful and intolerant yourself.
I'm sorry, I will gladly wear the badge of intolerance of murderers under the guise of some ridiculous religion that's basically saying the only way justice is served is if somebody goes out there and kills all these people for drawing a picture which is protected under the First Amendment.
Yes, absolutely. Muslims are not new to America. We are not all immigrants who crossed oceans to walk miles to forge a new life in this land. Muslims have been a part of the fabric of our nation since her birth.
I don't know about that.
I did a little history on that.
Really? I'd love to hear it.
He is referring to black Africans that were shipped here as slaves that were at parts, some were Muslim.
Oh, I could imagine. I mean, there's definitely Islam in Africa.
Well, and then he goes, an American that stands by in complicit silence when confronting with such unprecedented levels of bigotry and intolerance is not my America. So, the Muslims that he's claiming, I did a little research on that too. Apparently, Muslims claim they found America hundreds of years before Columbus ever set sail.
And who would that be?
A Muslim.
I mean,
in the 13th century.
I mean, does he have any evidence?
He said it's a fact.
Well, he said it's a fact, but based on what? Other than his words.
He said it is a fact. It's written in the Quran.
What? Quran talked about the New World.
Yes. So the last bit of this, and as a Muslim who is watching the drama unfold outside this mosque in Arizona during a period when Muslim communities are on heightened alert due to threats and attacks, I will pray.
Who the hell is attacking Muslims?
I will pray for the safety and peace of mind of my brothers and sisters, so that they may worship in peace.
Nobody's attacking Muslims.
This written by.
That's the whole point.
This written by.
Barack Obama.
Zainaba?
Oh.
Chandra? Shaka. The outreach manager for CARE.
Oh, of course.
I read this whole article and I was losing it. And then he doesn't put his name to the bottom because it's a letter. Mm-hmm. He penned a letter. Mm-hmm. I got to the bottom, so he wrote it. I'm like, of course.
Oh.
Of course.
What a liar. What Muslims, what fear could they have, and if so, what would it be based on? Who has been killed or even attempted to be killed in the Muslim faith other than in self-defense?
Dude, I really think the media and the Muslims were salivating over this.
Oh, I know they were.
And wanting and wishing and waiting for a gunshot for a dead Muslim.
Oh, it'd be the gunshot heard around the world. It would have been like the real gunshot heard around the world, which started the revolution.
You want to do a little lightning round real quick?
Sure. I don't know if I have anything.
Okay. White young pizza delivery driver. Robbed, stabbed, slain, and murdered by 2 black thugs.
Oh, was he Muslim? And he did it, and they did it because he was Muslim?
The pizza guy was white, young kid.
Was he Muslim?
He was Christian.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know what he was, but there's no outrage and no protests, no burning of theaters. Marilyn Mosby, the prosecuting attorney in Baltimore City, the attorney general, she claims that her Twitter account was hacked this week because she tweeted things about hating cops.
She favorited a couple of
cop-hating
2 of them.
Yeah.
And her response to why she would do that is that she was hacked and that she didn't do that.
Or she is a hack.
Oh, that makes much more sense. Okay.
ISIS savages burn women alive for refusing to take part in extreme sex acts.
What?
This revealed by UN officials.
Well, were the sex acts with a husband or just anybody?
They didn't go into details in the entire article. They just kept saying over and over again, extreme sex acts. I don't...
okay.
Yeah, you got me on that one.
Yeah. Joe Biden's son died.
I heard about that.
Brain cancer. And brain cancer, you don't just die of brain cancer and then you're like, what did he die of? I mean, he would have been diagnosed and then,
Did you hear about John Kerry?
The bicycling accident?
Oh, no! That's not a real picture.
That's his picture.
That's a real picture.
Yes!
That's why he wrecked. Look at him. Look at him.
Yeah, so he wrecked in a cycling accident. It was an overseas trip, of course. He doesn't even like America.
Right.
Because we're a bunch of baby killers reminiscent of Genghis Khan. Yeah.
Obama reveals war plans to ISIS. Leader states Obama will pay ISIS $600 per new recruit.
What? New recruit of what?
Every new recruit that ISIS gets.
For ISIS?
The administration will pay $600 per
I thought you were saying that they're recruiting, like, Americans?
It was on...
or they're recruiting for America. Like...
Yeah, no, I don't think so. That one hasn't quite passed the desk of the Senate.
What? How would that even work? What?
Megyn Kelly had that one on.
Well, that is weird.
Yeah, very, very weird. Clinton Foundation hit with racketeering lawsuit.
What about this FIFA crap?
World Soccer Champ thing.
Well, they got the big scandal, and there's people actually arrested.
The head of FIFA, with all the scandal breaking, reelected to stay.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, you know what that is? That's a thumb in America's eye. Like, oh, you want to arrest our people? Watch this.
Oh, I thought you meant it was a thumb
stuck somewhere. Yeah. No, but the thing is all these people. First of all, America gives 2 craps about soccer, or as they call it, football.
It is soccer ball.
Soccer ball. So, where is the care and outrage about corruption and scandals in American government, which is, number one, way more important, way more devastating? Who gives a crap if there's corruption in soccer?
I don't know. Apparently, the government was pretty obsessed there for a minute. I thought that they were going to throw Tom Brady in prison.
For Deflategate. For deflating the footballs.
Yeah, that was a no-go one. Yeah, it's such a shame. We are going to do a part of our show next week. We are going to talk about the illegal invasion of aliens from, not outer space, but from south of the border. And Ann Coulter refuses to hug an illegal alien.
Yeah, that was, you got to get the soundbite of her getting interviewed and just obliterating this guy. And you know what? He was trying to throw words in her mouth, too. Because she said, I believe that the threat of illegal immigrants from Mexico is more of a grave threat to Americans than ISIS.
Oh, wow.
And he said, oh, next week.
Oh, my goodness. Where does the time go? I don't even think we're going to finish the
We
show.
should do 3 more hours.
At least. All right, folks. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We are all over the place for you. Good night now.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.